I've thought of a way to make this very simple so you will understand. Would you please give me a spotlight? Do you get what I'm saying now? This is not about you. This is about me being in the spotlight where I deserve to be.
Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful.com. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined as always by Stephen Jensen. Thank you as always to Big Dick Dave Bautista, personalized intro for us. Stephen Jensen, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Just getting my Thursday morning started. Always like starting it off talking some wrestling with you. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about today, and we're getting closer and closer to your wedding, man. Getting excited. Got my tickets for my flight booked and my Airbnb with Cassidy Haynes booked, and I'm excited, man.
Speaking of Cassidy Haynes, he was supposed to be in the Creator Spotlight this week, but he's been bumped once again. Righteous Reg is in the Creator Spotlight. That interview will air about an hour and a half, around 11 o'clock. We talked with Reg, who people should know from Grapsody, and other spots like the BW 500, the PWI 500, AEW Music. We talked about all that and plenty more with Righteous Reg. Again, that's going to air about an hour and a half, 11 a.m. for those who are watching live. There is plenty to talk about, Stephen Jensen, and we probably only have 2 shows of this left because you and Cassidy Haynes getting together for my wedding. I'm afraid you guys are going to end the world and yourselves end up in jail. You guys are staying near us. I'm afraid of all of this. I don't know how this is going to go.
I was happy when you told me that where you're staying is close to where our Airbnb is at. That'll be fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Because I had some days I needed to take off work before the end of the year, anyways. Like they go away if you don't use them, you know. So like, I'm gonna fly down there Saturday. Stay there obviously Saturday night. Sunday's your wedding. Then Monday I'm taking that day off and just hanging out in Akron. Tuesday I'm flying back, and then and just hanging out. Wednesday I'm going to Dave & Buster's, took the day off. I haven't been to DMB's in a while, so I'm going to DMB's on Wednesday, and then just working Thursday and Friday that week. So
Monday we're going to Chuck E. Cheese. Me, you, the new wife, whoever else is still in town on Monday. We're gonna go to Chuck E. Cheese. I got SpongeBob cards to win. That's how I'm spending my first full day as a married man. Chuck E. Cheese, and wife, and all the friends. Paul Finisher says, crash the wedding, Jensen. He's invited.
I'm invited. It's tough. Yeah.
I don't think it's crashing if you're invited to it.
I did see that you were gaming at Chuck E. Cheese though the other day. Unfortunately, it was on that mid SpongeBob stuff. But like,
how dare you? Look at all these SpongeBob cards I got, Stephen Jensen.
No, I mean, listen, I respect that you were playing the arcade games, and you know. So I respect the grind. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. So I'm looking forward. That's already coming up. Like that's not this weekend, but next weekend, right?
Yeah, it's a week from Sunday.
This weekend I'll be at Battle Slam on Sunday. That'll be fun. So we'll talk about that a little bit on next Spotlight, I'm sure. So
good deal. Guys, leave your super chats, leave humper chats, get your question, comment, statement right on there. We like to be interactive with the chat regardless, but if you leave your super chats, that helps supports us, the show, everything we do here at Fightful, so it is much appreciated. We do have a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. Let's see which intro I play with AEW this week.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. It was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
My pal Tony Khan, my close personal friend, the Khan, as Cody likes to call him, was a run of great shows, run of great demo numbers, and it was capped off last night. AEW Grand Slam, Dynamite Grand Slam. Jon Moxley is once again the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, defeating Bryan Danielson in the finals. Jensen, we were both kind of in the Bryan Danielson should win this match. Bryan Danielson will win this match camp. Jon Moxley won this match. What are your thoughts on it?
So I had said leading up to this, I don't have an issue at all with Moxley winning the title again. And I don't. Like, I think Moxley, I tweeted this last night as well. Like, I think that Moxley right now, especially with like the Elite out and Cody being gone and stuff, and Jericho doing the ROH thing currently, Moxley really feels like the soul of all Elite Wrestling. And so I'm fine with him having the championship. Like, I have nothing against him. I'm a big Mox fan. But like the story just seemed to write itself with Danielson avenging all of his losses. throughout the tournament and everything. And then we've never seen him and MJF. We have seen Mox and MJF before for the title, and MJF lost that one. And I feel like they're kind of trying to maybe redo that with having MJF be the one to beat Mox this next time. There you go. You got MJF with a poker chip. I mean, he's obviously he's waiting to cash that thing in. I'm kind of surprised he didn't do it last night, but they have other stuff coming up soon in like New York and stuff. So like I think they're gonna slow burn it a little bit more, but I don't think that Moxley will have a very long run. The only thing that's kind of a downer about it is AEW kind of like making Mox like the default plan over and over. Like they keep taking the title off of him, and then it's just like, well, the better option, whatever you would say, isn't available anymore. So let's just go back to Moxley. And on one hand, I think that's badass that Moxley can be that guy that the company can rely on and fall back on. But at the same time, like, they could have done this with Danielson. There's a lot of ways they could have went with this, but personally, I don't have an issue with Moxley. The one last thing I'll say about it before throwing it back over to you is, I talked about it a lot the last few weeks with Moxley's match coming up, defending the GCW title against Nick Gage, career versus title. And a big part of our line of thinking on Mox not winning the AEW title again was, well, this frees him up to lose the GCW title because he's probably not going to lose to Nick Gage while he's the AEW World Champion. Now there's a lot more up in the air with that if Mox keeps that title belt through next month. The Gage match is in like 2 or 3 weeks. So So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces to this. So it leads me to believe Mox will hold the title for a very short amount of time. But if he's the champion of AEW going into that Gage match, that makes things even more interesting to me because I feel like Gage really needs to win that match. And Moxley, we're all going to think is not going to lose if he's the AEW champion. So it's kind of lead to kind of like an unpredictable scenario, which I think could be a lot of fun as a fan. So I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts on it, but like honestly, most of them are positive.
I have no issue with Jon Moxley. I've said it many times on this show and elsewhere. I think Moxley is the guy in wrestling right now. Like everything about him is fully formed, fully complete. I've loved his full body of work since he's come back earlier this year from everything. I do think it was time to put the title on Bryan Danielson because, like you said, Moxley, it doesn't feel like progress with Moxley. And that feels weird to say because he is I do think he is the top guy in AEW. It's like, all right, we just had the interim title reign. He had the belt for 2 weeks after he beat Punk with the foot injury. And then he lost to Punk. And then it's like, all right, well, let's just put the title back on Jon Moxley. As I said the other week, wouldn't have had this issue if you just kept the title on Jon Moxley at All Out in the first place. And I don't think Moxley is in a position right now where he needs the title. I think his star power is so great right now that he's not a guy who needs that championship title. He could do the program with MJF without the title. You can have a good reign for Danielson because it does feel like they're obviously setting up the Moxley and MJF program. Feels like MJF has to win that. Mm-hmm. And so does that mean another short reign for Moxley? The Cincinnati show is in a couple of weeks. I imagine he will be the champion going into that. I think it's in a month. I think it's like mid-October. I imagine he'll be the champion going into that show. I think the MJF match is going to happen at Full Gear. I know and MJF and Tony were both asked about this. Like, how does the chip work? Can you cash it in whenever you want? Or does it have to be like at a set date and time? It's like you can do it whenever you want, but Tony Khan has to approve it. So technically, at the end of the show last night, well, I mean, they ran out of time because we didn't even get to see like the final stuff with Moxley, Danielson, and William Regal. But technically, MJF, who was shown throughout the entire match, they really wanted to remind you that MJF had this chip. That they did the wide shot with the big screen of MJF. I was like, all right, we get it, guys. We get it. He's got the chip. But technically, he could have come down and was like, all right, I'm cashing this in. And Tony Khan would have had to been like, okay, we have a match. I guess Tony Khan could have just been like, no, I'm not doing this right now. I'm not sanctioning this right now. He's going to have to give the title back like Solo Sikoa did and with the North American title. Nope, unsanctioned. You're not allowed to do this match. So that's how the chip works. Will we see MJF just be like, all right, full gear, this is when we're doing it? Or will we see him try to do a thing where maybe it's Cincinnati, where I assume Moxley's wrestling on that show. And if he wrestles on that show, I assume he's going to win. Maybe after he wins that you want to put heat on MJF, having him come out after Moxley defeats whoever on that show and cash in that chip and beat Moxley for the title. That's a way to put heat on MJF. I could see them going that route if that's what they ultimately decide to do. But I thought Danielson should have won. I thought Danielson should have had a nice reign with the title, and MJF does his thing with Moxley. In the meantime, you get to Danielson and MJF a little bit later on. They didn't go that way. They went with Moxley. No issues with Jon Moxley. He rules. The Gage stuff, you mentioned it, and you talked about it previously, is very interesting because it did seem like a foregone conclusion that Gage was going to win, especially if Moxley wasn't the champion, because, all right, he can take the loss now. Now he's the champion. Now is he taking that loss? Or is Moxley like, fuck it, like, who cares? The fans know, fans get it. This ain't hurting me in the least. Just let me take this loss. Whatever. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, Lonnie Barker, if you pull that super chat up real quick, that would actually be interesting. Thank you, Lonnie. It says, I can see MJF costing Mox the GCW title. That'd be cool because that's a callback to MJF bringing in Mox against Jericho. Or sorry, MJF bringing in Gage against Jericho in AEW. Like they have like kind of the link there already. You know what I mean? That'd be kind of cool. And I'd love to see MJF. So you bring up interesting scenarios about Cincinnati also that I hadn't considered. Because honestly, for MJF, it'd be better for him to win the title in a city like Cincinnati where he's going to get booed out of the building and then show up in New York the next time as the champion and get just like massive cheers. You know what I mean? Like versus because it feels like a weird moment to me if MJF wins the title in front of fans that love him and it's this big like celebration because it really should be like the biggest heel in wrestling getting booed out of the building for winning the title. Have they announced? I haven't seen all. I saw some of the Rampage spoilers. I haven't seen all of them. So I don't know if you want to throw anything out there or if the chat would get mad. But and I honestly don't know the answer to this question still. But have they? I don't know who won the Battle Royal. And don't spoil it in the chat, y'all. But I don't know who won that, and I don't know if they've set the date for that. But couldn't they easily make the date for that, like the Cincinnati show, and then MJF could come out after that, like after like. It's like it's a tough match and Mox barely gets out of there. And then MJF, like that would all kind of make sense if they did that.
Yeah. They have announced a bunch of stuff. I know I have read the spoilers. I will not spoil anything. I don't want anybody in the chat to get mad, but they could certainly say that, all right, the whoever wins this, that's the Cincinnati show, or they set up some type of contender for the Cincinnati show. I am very positive that Jon Moxley will be the champion going into the Cincinnati show, and he will defend that title against somebody at the Cincinnati show. I can guarantee that.
Can you just DM me real quick the name of who won that?
Sure. I know. Yeah, I'll put it in the private chat.
Thanks. So, but yeah, I think all this makes a lot of sense. And listen, I think most people expected Danielson to win. It almost seemed like a foregone conclusion that Danielson was going to win. And maybe that's part of the reason they went the route they went, you know? Like just, you know, we've seen it with Mox a few times where we thought for sure he was going to lose and put someone over and just make someone look good and just, you know, but then he wins, you know? And I thought it was a good match too, you know? It's the only thing I don't like about this, the only thing, we touched on it a little bit last week, the only thing is you just never know, like what you know, with Danielson. I'm not, you know, we just know his history with injuries and stuff and concussions and, you know, having to take time off and all that stuff. And it's like, he's there, he's healthy. You can put the title on him right now. But like, can you say that 6 months from now? Can you say that a year from now? Like, when's his contract come up? Like, how long is he going to be there? It sounds like he wants to retire at the end of this contract in like a couple of years or whatever. So like, it's just one of those things, right? Like it's right in front of you. You can do it. You can make Danielson the world champion. Hopefully there's still plans to do that because I think he needs to hold the title at least one time and have like a real run with it. And that's part of it too, is like they got to get the title on MJF pretty soon, it feels like. So like maybe it was best not to have Danielson win the title and have like a short run. Maybe it's better to have Danielson and MJF in like a real feud, and he maybe eventually wins the title like, months down the line or something. I don't know. But that's really my only thing is I love Mox. I'm fine with him being the champion, but I also want to see Danielson as the AEW champion at some point. And right now they can do it. And who knows, like a year from now, you know what I mean? It's just, you never know. So
sometimes you got to strike while the iron is hot on this stuff.
100%.
And the story of Danielson defeating the people who have defeated him in AEW was such a good story. And it made so much sense. And that's why I was kind of convinced myself that Bryan Danielson was going to win this title. It didn't happen. It seems like it's going to be delayed for a bit because Moxley has it now. And like you said, MJF seems set up to win this title whenever he decides to cash in this chips. And it seems set up that he's going to hold the title for a while as well. Because I really think they're going to do the take the title to WWE, contract expires, like the bargaining chip of the title to get a new contract type of deal. I think they're going to do that storyline. Now, maybe he can lose the title in the middle of next year and then regain it at the end of his run, or maybe it's a thing where at the end of next year, he's not the champion and he ends up winning one of their gimmick ladder matches, battle royals, tournaments, whatever, to get a title shot. And it becomes a thing of like, fuck, we can't have MJF win this title because he hasn't signed a new contract type of thing. Maybe that's the story they tell instead of MJF is the champion as the year ends and his contract comes to a close. I fully 100% believe, though, that MJF is going to be in the title picture in some capacity for the majority of 2024 or 2023. And then definitely at the end of 2023, he's either going to be the champion or going to be right there getting a title shot to tell this story, because this is the story they've told with MJF pretty much his entire AEW run of my contract ends at this point. I'm going whoever pays me the most, and I want that title to use as a bargaining chip. So he's going to be in that title picture this time next year.
Do you think, this is just speculation, obviously, but do you think that MJF has actually signed an extension? Like, do you think like he really has? You don't think so? Okay.
No, I don't think he signed an extension at all. I think he got paid more. I
believe that for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's like kayfabing everyone by saying he doesn't have a contract, because it helps the story a lot more if we think he doesn't. But I mean, I don't know one way or another. I believe either way. I would believe that he signed an extension. I would also believe that they just paid him more money and didn't make him sign one. I'll also say this. If I'm MJF, I want to test free agency regardless. You know what I mean?
That's why I don't think he signed an extension, because them TV contracts are coming up and you get that TV money kicking in. Then you got more money to throw around right about the time MJF's contract is coming up. So that's why I don't think he signed an extension at all. He knows this. He's very, very smart. He knows that, the MTV contracts, you guys are going to make a lot of money. WWE is going to make a lot of money. You're going to have more money to spend. I'll take that money. That new money is better than that old money. So I don't think he signed an extension at all. I think he did get a nice little bonus on what he's already making.
I agree. I think that's the case too. I just think that even if he had signed an extension, he wouldn't say that. The company wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? But I also think that he would be smartest to, because I think that he honestly was in a position where he was fine with sitting at home, like just sitting home and just letting them deal with it and just being a free agent when he was able to be. But I think that they honestly probably worked it out kind of the way that it played out on television, to be honest. Like, and I listened to the MJF interview on the Them May Hour with Ariel Helwani. I really enjoyed it. I'm a big Ariel fan. I got to interview him years back. You know, like he's like one of my inspirations for even getting into podcasting years ago and stuff. And I really, really like that interview with MJF a lot. And he was talking about that kind of stuff too, you know, like getting more money and not having to sign an extension and all that stuff, but also being interested in the WWE and who pays more money. But I love hearing him in like kind of that in between, being like in gimmick and not, because there's a lot of truth in what he's saying too. Like, you know, it's just, there's kind of the ideal, like, it seems so basic, but Helwani's like, you know, what changed between, you know, you going home and the whole like plane ticket story and all that stuff and right now? And MJF's like, money, like just straight up, like it's just the money. Like I saw that I saw what other people were making, and I heard backstage other people were making, and I felt like I deserved to make more or the same as those people. And it's like that's very reasonable. Like he has a legitimate, like, there's, on one hand, he signed a contract and you should honor that. But on another hand, we see it in MMA all the time where fighters get stuck in these contracts that are like 3-fight contracts or 5-fight contracts or whatever. But after like a fight or two, they get like a big win over a big name or something. And now all of a sudden, like their value has skyrocketed, but they're still on the old contract. We see it with like rookie deals in football kind of too. That's a little bit structured a bit differently, but the same kind of idea where it's like, okay, the first couple of years, maybe you can deal with making low money, but if you're super valuable and you realize you're more valuable than the people making way more money than you, it's like, you got to speak up and try to get what you're worth. Like, and I get that. So, but anyway, MJF, I think it's inevitable. I think we all agree he's the next AEW World Champion. It's just a matter of when they do it. But I'm with you. I think it makes a ton of sense for them to have Moxley defend against the winner of the. I saw your message, by the way, and that's kind of who I figured would probably win. So we got Moxley versus the winner of that battle royal. I would do that in Cincinnati, and then have MJF come out and win the title in Cincinnati and get booed out of the building. And then the next time they roll into like New York, New Jersey, that area, like he's a king there with the championship, you know.
I do wonder how much that would upset the fan base if that played out, where Moxley loses the title in Cincinnati like that. Because Louis Dangor famously said that Hangman Page, after he wins the title, should lose it like 2 weeks later in his hometown of Virginia. Right. And everyone was like, well, that's a terrible idea. Different circumstances in that Hangman win was years in the making, and to take it off him that quickly would have been very foolish. I think this is different in that Moxley is now a 3-time champion. We all kind of suspect he's going to lose the title in short order anyway, but a 1-month reign with the title after kind of already short reigns, like an interim reign, his first reign wasn't short, but it was in front of nobody. And yeah, I wonder how much that would upset the fan base if that's the direction they end up going, where MJF won. I'm on the belief that it creates more of a good kind of heat than a go away kind of heat. But the issue is Moxley ain't getting his revenge anytime soon off of that. Because they'd run it back at Full Gear. I'm just trying to play this out in my head now. Like, I imagine they run that back at Full Gear. MJF retains at Full Gear. And then you go off from there. You do something else with MJF and Moxley. Maybe after Full Gear, that man can finally take a fucking vacation that he was supposed to take after All Out. That's kind of the scenario I'm playing out in my head, just off the top of my head. But we will see what happens with Moxley and the title and MJF and the chip. And I have some more Danielson theories later on. But before we get to that, our other AEW spotlight, Saraya is here. Stephen Jensen, she made her big return to wrestling last night. Toni Storm successfully defended the interim women's championship. And then after the match, Jamie Hayter stayed with Britt Baker, who got her nose busted open on just a horrifying looking spot with Athena. It was a cool looking spot as Athena had Britt on her back for a Samoan drop, and she was carrying around Deeb and was trying to toss Deeb and do a Samoan drop to Britt and just crushed Britt's face on it. So Bloody Britt returned, and Jamie Hayter was still on Britt's side. They were beating up along with Deeb, beating up Storm and Athena. And then Saraya arrived. Everyone cleared the ring. She's back. She has not wrestled since 2017. I kind of thought she was going back to WWE after the Triple H stuff, and he regained power. She's in AEW, and I don't know this for certain. I'm not a scoopster, at least not a real one. I'm a fake one. She's wrestling. There's no way she signed and is not wrestling. She's on the roster page with a record. They mentioned how she, is ready to take care of business, how she's ready to fight. I don't remember the exact wording Excalibur had, but it alluding to her wrestling, and I don't think she's signing unless she's wrestling. So she's wrestling.
I agree, because otherwise I think she would just re-sign with WWE if they'd have her just like on television as just like a talent, and there's probably some sort of disconnect there or whatever, where like WWE probably still, I mean, this is complete speculation, but like WWE probably still won't clear her. And she probably went and found multiple doctors that were like, you're totally fine to do this. So she's like, all right, I'm going to go over here where they're going to clear me, let me wrestle, like, makes sense. And she gets to be, I mean, if she's healthy and she can wrestle on a regular basis, this is a huge jolt to the AEW women's division. Like, this is huge for them. She's an international star. She's one of the most recognizable, not just female wrestlers, but she's just a super recognizable wrestler just in the world. Saraya. So it's going to be weird saying that, not Paige. I got to really get used to saying her other name here, but she got a massive pop. I was in the crowd in New Orleans the night after WrestleMania 30 when she debuted on Raw, and she got a massive pop on that too. And it's like, she's always been over with the fans. And I mean, I don't watch a lot of movies, but I watched that. I think it was called Fighting with My Family, the movie with her and like The Rock, it was in it and stuff. That was a really good movie. It was a really good story. And it was actually cool because I don't know if it was during the outtakes, or I remember seeing a couple clips where they had like a young, like Pete Dunne in there and stuff too. I thought it's a good movie for people who haven't seen it. Like, it isn't corny or cheesy. It's like actually a good movie, and really like tells her story and her family's story really well, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's great to see Saraya back in pro wrestling, and I'm with you. I'm assuming she's going to be wrestling, and it looks like her and Britt Baker will probably be the first like big feud that she has, which makes total sense. That's another one that's like, it's right there in front of you. Why even like screw with this, right? Like, I mean, you could just do this. That way, like, there's so many things in AEW that I'm like, ugh, it was like a victim of them waiting too long, and now we're just not going to get it. Like, Sting versus Cody Rhodes was like a match I really wanted to see. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to see that like we're just not going to get. CM Punk had like a whole list of people, that we wanted to see, and probably won't ever see him wrestle again in AEW. I mean, don't know that for sure, but that's my guess. So my point is similar to like the idea that we have, like, just put the title on Danielson while you have the opportunity to. Same kind of thing with this. Like, if you have a list of dream opponents for Paige or for Saraya, like, let's just do them, right? Like, let's not wait like a year or two. I mean, you can slow play some stuff, but like, if Britt Baker versus Saraya is right there in front of you, we'll just do that. And it's going to get a lot of attention. It's going to be a great match. Going to be a great story. A lot of people are going to buzz about it. And then it puts Paige right back in the mix. Like, if she wins that match, she's automatically probably like in line for the women's championship or close to that. And she has history with a lot of these women too, like being former WWE wrestlers and stuff also. So like, she already has chemistry with a lot of these people. She has friendships with a lot of these people. I think it's going to be a great fit for her in All Elite Wrestling. And I was happy to see it. And honestly, shout out to my buddy Michael Hughes, who I watch AEW with on Wednesdays. He comes over to watch the shows. And before she even came out, he recognized the music, and he was like, "This is Paige's boyfriend's band." And I was like, "How the hell do you know that?" Like, and he was like, "This is Paige's boyfriend band. Like, this is gonna be Paige." And I was like, "Dude, good call." Like, I would have never. Like, I figured Paige might be coming in because there was a lot of like speculation about that, but like,
Sean Ross Sapp was posting gifs of her, right. So people just assume, "Oh, it's coming."
Exactly. So, but hey, Tony Khan was posting GIFs of Captain Insano, and we didn't see him. Well, at least not last night. I don't know if he showed up on Rampage. I legitimately don't know. But like, but yeah. So, but yeah. And shout out to Hughes. He like literally like one note into that song, he's like, "This has got to be Paige. This is her boyfriend's band." And I was like, "How the hell did you know that, man? That's pretty cool." So, anyway, good for her. Good for her debut.
Be great at the hurdle, your pal there. I'm cautiously optimistic when it comes to her. And that's on multiple levels. The first level is her wrestling. If she's cleared, if she's good, if the doctors say she's good, then I will believe that. I will buy it. We've seen people cut. Christian has returned. Edge has returned. Danielson. Plenty of people have returned from these kind of injuries. And they've done well. Like, there's been other injuries that they've unfortunately suffered throughout the time, but nothing with the Danielson has had another concussion, but Edge's injury was like the triceps. I think Christian was also like a bicep injury. Like they were suffering like arm and shoulder injuries, not more neck related, head related injuries. So same with Sting. Sting has been good. He's returned and he hasn't suffered any type of head and neck injury. So I'm cautiously optimistic when it comes to her wrestling. I trust the wrestlers that they know their bodies. I trust the doctors that they know what they're doing and they're not going to throw them out there and leave them out there to get injured any worse or anything like that. So I'm optimistic on that end that she is good to go wrestling and she's not going to suffer any type of injury that isn't just an injury that can occur to literally anybody at this point. I'm also cautiously optimistic in that she's the game changer that the women's division needs, because how many times have we tried to talk ourselves into, oh, Ruby Soho's here. That's who now the women's division's going to be cooking. Athena's here. Now we're going to be cooking. Tony Storm. Now it's cooking. And it's been kind of the same stuff. It's been, all right, we've got our 2 titles. Those are the programs we're doing. The joke, the 9:30 joke, you get your 1 women's match, not really anything else there. I think Jade's run has kind of died down a little bit. I mean, no offense to Diamante. Hey, love seeing Trina, the baddest bitch. Love seeing her on
random,
TV.
Yeah.
Fabulous was on there last night. DJ Who Kid, like, great. I love all these early 2000s callback to me being in middle school, listening to these mixtapes and everything. Like, that's fine. But Diamante hasn't wrestled on Dynamite, or she's never wrestled on Rampage. I don't think she's been on Dynamite for like 2 years. I'm glad she's won a bunch of matches on Dark, like 11 out of her last 13. She's actually like lost her last 2 singles matches. So even though it's 11 out of her last 13, she's actually coming off a loss. Like, that's who Jade Cargill is facing now. Jade ain't really doing much outside of just beating people we know she's going to beat. I'd like to see more with that title reign. Thunder Rosa says she's hurt, and so I understand she's out of the picture right now. Toni Storm, interim champion. You just did a fatal 4-way match after you did a 4-way match at the pay-per-view. Like, we still need more with the women's division, and we've heard it so many times of, oh, this is the person who is going to change the women's division, and it hasn't happened. Is it going to be Paige, Saraya? I don't know. I'd like to think so, because she is someone who is a well-rounded wrestler. I would assume can still go in the ring in some capacity. It's been almost 5 years now, and it might be 5 years. It was 2017 when she last wrestled. So I don't know what she looks like in the ring. Microphone work, she's still very great. She's obviously very popular. So you would hope that that's the boost the women's division needs to do something else. I don't know if it is, though, because I've just seen this story too much. And I've been let down by this story of, this is it, here we go, and then nothing changes.
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you're saying with all that. And personally speaking, I think this is bigger than like Ruby. In some
I think so too.
Ruby, but like, and especially because we haven't seen Paige wrestle in so many years, like there's going to be the intrigue of seeing her back in the ring after so long and stuff. When it comes to the injuries, I'm obviously no doctor. I'm no expert on brain injury and that kind of stuff. But like, the one thing that makes me at ease when it comes to, like the Saraya or Danielson, Edge and that kind of stuff, is one thing we have to just keep in mind is, like, Danielson. Here's a really good example. This guy did so much work and so much like cryogenic therapy and so much, like, he did all of these like new age technology, these like super advanced things with doctor's approval and doctor supervision and doctor help, to where like he's been monitored so closely that like they can prove his brain is in good condition. Like, I don't know where my brain's at. Most wrestlers don't know where they're, I mean, I'm sure they get like physicals and that kind of stuff, but like, you know what I mean? Like, we know for a fact, like a doctor could literally sit down and be like, this is the state and the condition of Bryan Danielson's brain. This is the state and condition of Edge's neck. This is, and it's actually like, there's proof of like, they're in good shape. Like, they're allowed to do this because they're in good shape. And there's a lot of people running around out there with completely undiagnosed stuff because they don't have doctors monitoring them that closely. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. Like, obviously they're being monitored because of previous injury, and that's scary. But like, at the same time, these are like legitimate doctors that like, there's no real benefit in like in a collection of doctors clearing a wrestler when like they know if that something happens to that wrestler, their practice is you know what I mean, at stake, because they're the ones signing off on it. So like, they have to be pretty damn confident too that they're going to be okay doing this. to sign off on it because their own reputation and careers on the line. So like, I just want to throw that out there too for anyone who's like concerned about Paige wrestling again. I understand the concern, but also understand like there's probably been multiple doctors that have all corroborated and have all agreed and are looking at proof of like she's okay to do this. You know what I mean? So I just want to make that clear too. This isn't like a situation of just someone saying they feel good enough to do it and they just let them go do it. Like there's actual doctor proof and monitoring showing that they're capable of doing this physically, you know? So
we will see when it comes to Saraya. I imagine we will see her wrestling by the end of the year. I think Full Gear is probably she's going to have a match there. If it's not Full Gear, then Winter is coming in December. I could see that being her big match, but I'm very confident she will be in the ring. Let's move on. WWE. Stephen Jensen.
You want to be a professional wrestler, or do you want to be a WWE superstar? WWE superstar sounds a whole lot better to me than being a professional wrestler.
I should probably update that.
I mean, it's a good clip, though. I mean, it's true every time.
Yeah. Should still probably update it. One guy who is a WWE superstar who I got a feeling you absolutely love this match, which pops me. Roman Reigns, Logan Paul, WWE Crown Jewel. Jensen, tell all the dorks out there why they are just complete fools. I had to put Will Washington and Kate Elizabeth in their place on Tuesday because they're like, oh, this match is so wrong. What about the tradition? They, uphold the great tradition of WWE Crown Jewel. I had to put them in their place, Stephen Jensen, because they're idiots. They're fools. And they don't understand big business like Logan Paul and Roman Reigns. Let them know, Stephen Jensen.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I'm not going to – they're just not hype beasts enough, you know? They just don't get it. Logan. It's everyday bro with the Disney Channel flow. You know what I'm saying? I did think that was Jake, but same difference. Maverick. I'm a Maverick. Buy that merch. All I want for Christmas is that Jake Paul shirt. All I want for Christmas is that Jake Paul merch. So that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. It's all about getting YouTube views and social media engagements. It has nothing to do with wrestling. You guys understand that, right? It's like this is just like because a ton of people are going to pay attention to this. Listen, it's Crown Jewel. That's kind of like its own. Yes, it's canon to like what the WWE is in their stories and stuff, but it's also somewhat their own thing. It's kind of like that's where we saw like Cain Velasquez fight Brock Lesnar and stuff. You know what I mean? We see like Tyson Fury compete. Everyone just kind of forgets about that. Listen, I don't know how many matches they have for Logan. I don't know how available he is. The dude is mega famous. He's in incredible shape. He has at least the credibility. So here's the thing. He boxed Floyd Mayweather. I understand. I watched it. I'm a very big mixed martial arts and boxing fan. It's combat sports. I follow this stuff very closely. I understand it was not a real contest. Like Floyd played with his food out there. It wasn't like Logan had him in any trouble. It was not a competitive boxing match. But most of the WWE audience doesn't know that. And to most of them, all they're hearing is this guy boxed Floyd Mayweather. You know what I mean? So like that right there, I think is part of the sell for this is like he's boxed Floyd. We've seen him beat The Miz. We've seen him wrestle in the ring. His podcast is huge, impulsive, millions of views and downloads and listens. That alone, I think, was worth the WWE partnership, by the way. Just getting WWE wrestlers onto Impulsive on a regular basis helps the brand, in my opinion, big time, especially with like that demographic they really want of like the kind of like the teenage age through like the 18 to 39 and stuff. So honestly, I think it's smart that they're doing it because like, it's not like Logan's going to win the title. If Logan was the one to beat Reigns after all this, there'd be a problem there. But like, I just don't see that happening. It's really more about how they book this. Like, is this going to be some sort of no DQ type situation where they can do like a lot of shortcuts? Maybe Jake comes out and tries to help Logan, those kind of things. If this was a real fight, by the way, and this is not the same as me going after CM Punk. I want to preface this, totally different thing. I think Logan Paul, if he fought Roman Reigns, like Logan Paul would probably actually beat Roman Reigns in like an actual fight. I don't know. It might be close. Jake, I think, would like destroy Roman in an actual fight. And the reason that I bring this up is because there's somewhat of a credibility there knowing these guys have actually fought people. Like, you know what I mean? There's something there. It isn't like they're just social media people that have no athleticism, that have no combat sports background. They were both like state champion level, like high school wrestlers and stuff. Like they have some athletic background, and we both got to admit, right? Even if you don't like Logan Paul, he's looked impressive in the WWE ring so far. Like the matches he's had, he's looked good. So like, I have no problem with him going out there as long as it's not something where he's like kicking out of like 5 spears and like fighting out of the guillotine choke and all this stuff. Like, you know, if he maybe kicks out of 1 spear, but like the rest of it, he's pretty much getting his ass kicked, gets a little bit of offense in here or there, but it's mainly like 90-10 Roman or like 80-20 Roman. I have no problem with this at all. It's a spectacle. It's all meant to get people talking about it, which is exactly what we're doing. And what's the harm in having a big celebrity match for the title as long as Roman retains? And once again, it's another one of those, do it while you have it. You probably don't know how long you have Logan. You probably don't know how many matches you can do like per year and stuff. And it's right there in front of you. Like just do him and Roman while people are talking about it. They built the feud on Impulsive. They'll continue to build it going up to the show. Paul Heyman's great on the microphone, and they're, you know, I have no problem with this. As long as Logan doesn't leave as the champion from Crown Jewel, I have no problem with this at all personally.
Fuck it. Put the belt on him. He'll defend it as much as Roman does at this point. I don't have an issue with it. I've defended it in a kayfabe sense of Logan Paul's undefeated. He won at SummerSlam. He beat The Miz at SummerSlam. And it's a big money fight if you're going to look at it from a box office perspective. Strike while the iron's hot on this. The other point of it is like, who else is there? You want Karrion Kross in this position? And people are like, oh, what about Braun Strowman? You're just going to beat Braun coming back? You're just going to beat Kross? I'm sure people are fine beating these people, but I think Triple H wants to protect some of these people. Right. Like, who else is there? Seth Rollins. I mean, he's still feuding with Riddle right now. They haven't really built anybody to where it's like, yeah, sure, give this person the match. They could easily heat somebody up. Crown Jewel's not till like November, I think. So they could easily heat somebody up to that point, but just book a big match. And it is a big match. And like you said, you don't know how long Logan Paul's around. I know he signed like a multi-match deal and everything. You're going to waste this match at like WrestleMania. Nobody wants to see Roman and Logan do this at like WrestleMania. Exactly. Survivor Series. Like you want those to be like, all right, an actual title defense with a story for Roman Reigns. Everybody admits that Crown Jewel is just like non-canon stuff. Just do your dumb shit and get it out of the way. So it's tough for me to, I guess, sympathize with fans who are like, why are you doing Logan versus Roman at Crown Jewel when these are the same people who are like, yeah, Crown Jewel doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. You're just appealing to the Saudi king and all this stuff. It seems hypocritical to me. Do Roman and Logan, have fun with it. It'll get people talking because, like you said, Impulsive, that channel has like 4 million subscribers, which may not seem a lot on the whole. I think 4 million is plenty, but it has 4 million subscribers, and all of their shows do like 2 million views.
And that's just his podcast. That's not like his own YouTube channel or any of his other social media. I mean, we're talking like probably like 100 million subscribers, like across all platforms. You know what I mean? So, my point on that is 4 million subscribers, 2 million views. That's a very good hit ratio of how many people are watching. By comparison, so to throw some more numbers out there, WWE has like 90 million subscribers on YouTube, and most of their videos don't even crack 1 million views. Right. So again, the people who subscribe to that channel typically watch those videos, whereas WWE is just like, we'll subscribe, but we ain't actually like watching these videos out there. So like, it's a fun little match. They'll put plenty into it. Roman is great. He was great at that press conference. Paul Heyman will build it up great. Logan Paul's done a good job. It's gonna be fine. Quit worrying about this stuff. Let them do their silly little celebrity matches. And this is the shit that sells, Jensen. You know it. Like, yeah. You talk about these celebrity boxing and YouTube boxing stuff all the time. That
Who fought? Adrian Peterson and what's his name? Adrian Peterson just got knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just
Le'Veon
got
Bell knocked him out.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell. Jake Paul and Anderson Silva is the most hype I've been for any boxing match, and I can't tell you when. I'm extremely excited for that. Brutality says, has the ratings gone up for Logan's matches, or is this in vain? I mean, he's had 2 matches. It was at Mania and SummerSlam. It's tough to say, like, have they gone up? Has his television appearance ratings gone up? I don't think so. I'd have to look at the quarters and all of that. They're not so concerned about the television stuff. They want YouTube views, and there's just different ways to consume all of this stuff now. And now again, they're against football, but I think SmackDown ratings have done well with Logan on the show this past week, and it's going to be built on SmackDown. So we will see if Logan is continue to be on SmackDown, if there is increased entrance, and if the ratings do go up on there. I think the next few weeks with that will kind of tell the story of like how much Logan means in a television perspective. But again, it's narrow to just look at this from a television perspective when they're also looking at YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, all these other metrics to determine how much interest there is.
And those are the metrics I think they're the most concerned about when it comes to someone like Logan, because the majority of his fan base are cord cutters. You know what I mean? So like most of them probably aren't watching cable to begin with. So like they're consuming it through a digital means or watching clips, like you said, off other social media. So, yeah. And like when it comes to Crown Jewel, like you said before, like, I mean, Shawn Michaels pretends like he never even came back for that match. Like Braun Strowman won that green title belt that we never saw again. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's, it's just kind of its own thing. So, and honestly, probably what,
don't get me wrong.
I was gonna say real quick, probably what happened, because we know they give like a list to the WWE, like they had like Yokozuna on it originally and stuff like that. Like they probably just gave them a list and was like, Logan Paul's the most famous guy you have based on everything we have. Like we want to have the title match. It could have been as simple as that. It could have just been like Saudi being like, here's a ton of money. We want your most famous wrestler to fight Roman. You know what I mean? It could be that simple.
Don't get me wrong. Do I think they should make these shows part of canon and like actually like the first time they ran one of these Saudi shows, they were like, it's WrestleMania Part 2, like bigger than WrestleMania type of thing. Like, so do I think they should actually treat this like it is a major pay-per-view, kind of like they did with like Clash of the Castle? Like they treated that like it was a real big pay-per-view, real big event, and everything played out on television, and they culminated stories, they started new stories and all this stuff. Do I think they should do that with these Saudi shows? Absolutely. That's what these premium live events are for. But they don't. People accept that they don't. And so I have a tough time complaining when stuff like this happens. Now, if they should, in my mind, they should, they just don't. And so I'm not going to complain about it that they don't when everybody else has just accepted that, well, this is how they're going to do it. So, okay, if this is how they're going to do it, then Logan Paul, Roman Reigns, let's fucking go.
Yeah. Dude, some of these shows have been so funny. Like, I remember the first one when they did the Greatest Royal Rumble, and like they're just thinking about the Yokozuna thing, like how they had like that random like sumo wrestler come out, and like they try to like kind of, they didn't call him Yokozuna, but like they were kind of like implying that's who the fans thought it was and stuff, and like that was they had some like judo guy, like some Olympic judo guy come out and stuff. Like it was just so random. Speaking
Mansoor was winning all the time on
he would win all the big matches, all that oldie there. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. I don't know if I brought this up on last week's show or not. This is a little off topic, but just one thing I really wanted to touch just really quickly. Sami Zayn in the Bloodline. Since we're talking a little Roman. Oh, he's great in there. Like I honestly, like, I'm a little disappointed that I didn't follow the story closer, kind of week to week to up to this point, but like I really like where it's at right now. I've got some feedback about this recently, and people are saying I'm like right on the money about this, so I just want to extend it to this audience. If you grew up around our age and you saw the movie Surf Ninjas, like he is the Rob Schneider character from Surf Ninjas. Like that is the gimmick. Like I am convinced they are fans of that movie, and they're like, let's do this, because it's literally Rob Schneider, who back then he's like this redhead kid who thinks he's a part of like the family lineage, like the heritage of like who's the prince is and who's going to be the king of Patusan, this whole island. And he's delusional, thinking that like he's actually the prince and he's a part of this family, and it's actually all about him. And Sami Zayn's doing the same thing with the bloodline, where like he's trying to be a part of the bloodline, like trying to get in with Roman Reigns. And like, I just think it's so funny because like they look similar and it's like the same story. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. That's a real throwback to like 80s and 90s kids. But like when I see Sami Zayn of the bloodline, all I can think about is Rob Schneider and in Surf Ninjas, like trying to get in on that family. So let me know if I'm right. If y'all know this movie in the chat, let me know if you get the reference on this.
Mark Cyrus is popping for the Surf
Thank
Ninjas.
you, Mark.
Surf Ninjas is a 90-minute ad for the Game Gear, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah, the youngest brother could predict, like he could like play out real life scenarios on his Game Gear. So like he could fight enemies on his Game Gear when like people were actually fighting around him and stuff. Kwansu, dude.
That's a great movie. That's a good reference. I buy it. I buy that his whole character is based off Rob Schneider and Surf Ninjas. Somebody who interviews Sami Zayn, please ask this. My WWE spotlight this week, Jensen, is the White Rabbit stuff. So they started playing White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane at like live events, and people picked up on it and were posting it on social media of like, hey, this is interesting. What's this for? And then they did it like during commercial breaks for like SmackDown and Raw. And then on this past Raw, they had the QR code behind Austin Theory. And when you scan that, it takes you to this video where it's like a little White Rabbit Hangman game. It teases 9/23 at 9/23. 9/23 would be tomorrow, Friday, which is the same night as SmackDown. 9/23 at night would be when SmackDown is airing. And then at 9/23 on Raw, the QR code popped up again, a fan holding up the sign. Everyone seems to be leaning towards it being Bray Wyatt, and I'm leaning that way as well, despite my joke that it's T-Bar, because you can't spell White Rabbit without T-Bar, just a repackaged gimmick.
Facts.
Yeah, so
I like that.
I like, and I do think it's Bray Wyatt. People know I'm a sort of ironic fan of Bray Wyatt. It is 9/23 in certain areas of the country. I'm a sort of ironic fan of Bray Wyatt. I like what he does. I find his stuff like so over the top and wacky that it pops me. What I'm most interested in though is like the way they are doing this is very different and very intriguing to me. Instead of just doing like, all right, do a bunch of vignettes, or just hints or teases like on the show or whatever. This started as just a viral thing of we're going to play this at a live event and we're just going to trust that people are going to be like, hey, what are they doing this for? And then it just picked up steam from there. It's different and it's very cool. And I credit WWE and whoever came up with this for the way they've gone about with this marketing.
I agree 100%. I think it's very, very smart. And I hope they do more stuff along this line. Like you said, it's different than a vignette. It's similar in some ways to like years ago before Jericho returned to WWE, and they were doing the whole, like, the answer is the code is the answer, save us Y2J, like all that kind of stuff. It was similar to this, but that was like actually like on television, and you would just see like during like commercial breaks or like during random parts of the show, you just get like, but it was similar in that sense of like, you're trying to like decode who this is about and like what the message is and all that stuff. And I like it. I like that they're doing this pretty much entirely via like social media, and they're really smart to do the QR code thing because like, because I didn't know that any of this was going on until I saw on like Twitter, I think on Monday, everyone was talking about it and they were all posting pictures of this guy holding this giant QR code in the crowd. And at first I was like, oh, it's probably just some guy trying to like sell something or like advertise something. And then I was like, oh, they're actually using this for a story, and it leads to a video. There's other videos and this little White Rabbit and people are talking about it and stuff. And I was like, this is smart, and it's intriguing. And I know that at 9/23 on Friday, I'm probably going to be tuned into SmackDown. I rarely ever watch SmackDown. But I'm interested to see what this is. And I like that they've called the date and time. It's like 9/23 on 9/23. So like they should pop a good rating there because everyone knows exactly when to tune in. And I'm with you. I think it's probably Bray Wyatt as well. At this point, I think people would be disappointed if it wasn't him because everyone's kind of assuming it is. I don't think it's carrying Cross because I don't know why you would debut him and then like do all this after. You would just do this to re-debut him, you know? There's other people I guess it could be, or maybe a group, but you know, because the other thing with Bray Wyatt is I feel like they're kind of doing a similar thing with Joe Gacy right now, you know, and maybe maybe he's with them. That'd be kind of cool, like if he was actually leading those guys. But there's a lot of options here, and I'm with most other people. I think that I think it makes more sense that this would be Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt being the out of the box, you know, creative guy that he is. I could see him coming up with an idea like this where he's like, you know, he wants to do something totally different for his return, just like he wants to do something totally different every time he re-debuts, and he's got like a different gimmick and a different character and different ideas. And we hear it all the time, people talking about how Bray Wyatt, almost to a detriment, he's so creative that like sometimes he's like too creative, where it's like, dude, these are great ideas, but how do you expect us to actually do this? But this sounds kind of like him. Like maybe he came up with this great idea over this last year that he was out, and it's like now we're getting to see it, you know, on TV. I don't know who else it would be. You know what I mean? It could be someone totally different that I'm not thinking about, but I'm with everyone else right now thinking it's probably Bray Wyatt, which is good. It'll be good to see him back.
I'm pretty convinced it's Bray Wyatt. Kai says maybe a Bray Wyatt stable. Certainly a possibility. I've seen people bring that up as well. The thing with Bray is, I mean, Triple H has said that, and you just mentioned it, of like he has so many ideas that you have to like rein him in a little bit. I made the joke, you got to put him back in his box-like structure sometimes. But I don't think it's going to be like fully the Fiend. I don't even know if he wants to go back to like a full-on stable type of thing, but I could certainly see where that happens. I know Alexa has wanted to do something different with her character. There's still like ties there. So maybe he gets Alexa back on board with something in that, because Alexa, people picked up on like her mentioning, oh, like you're 10 foot tall, which is a line from the song. She said this on the promo on Raw, and that's a line from the White Rabbit song. So people are thinking that, oh, Alexa might be part of this group. Or I don't think anybody has said that this is a big gimmick change for Alexa Bliss. I don't think that is what it is. But that's a possibility. Yeah, I joke about the T-bar thing because I could see it just being like this big gimmick change for somebody who's not really utilized. Joe Gacy, I've seen people mention that theory of like, oh, this is like how his group is going to debut. Cross is the other big one. Like you said, I'm not buying that, just because why bring him back and do all the things you've done and then like do this whole thing for him as well? Like you're reintroducing him when you just reintroduced him a month ago. So I'm not fully buying Cross either, though there are certainly the elements there. Everyone knows the White Rabbit stuff from Lucha Underground. The little hourglass thing was part of that video.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty surprised if it's not Bray at this point, because this is one of those things almost like Punk, where like it seems like they've said enough without saying it outright when it comes to Bray. And we know Bray loves the little Easter eggs and all this stuff, and people have like pieced together, well, he tweeted this on this day, and the font is like this font that he used to use, and he said this in this promo, which is linked to this. Like people completely have linked this together with Bray, the people who are deep into the Bray Wyatt lore and everything. I would be pretty surprised if it's not Bray Wyatt. And I might even be a little bit disappointed if it's not Bray Wyatt, because I want to see the genius of Bray Wyatt back in the WWE without Vince McMahon holding him down. We will see. Yeah, like you said, 9:23 on Friday SmackDown. I think people are definitely going to be tuning in to see, hey, what's going on here? What's happening here? And we'll see if it is Bray Wyatt or not.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm hoping that he doesn't come back as the Fiend, because I feel like that kind of like they kind of ruined that with like the way that he was booked. But maybe I saw someone throw out the idea on Twitter of they'd have to do it right without making it goofy, but like the idea of maybe all of the Firefly Funhouse characters are like real. Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't necessarily do that, but I'm saying I could see him having a similar group to that though, where it's like him, Alexa, Karrion Kross, Dexter Lumis, like something, you know what I mean? I could see like a new group of like Wyatt followers potentially. But I don't necessarily want to see them try to like make Mercy the Buzzard transform into Dexter Loomis or something like that. Like that would be too goofy, I think. So
if you're gonna go goofy, lean into it. Like I do want to see if they want to transform all these characters into real people. I want to see like the animation where they've got the puppet and then it just animates and it comes.
Looks like a Power Ranger, like Power Rangers type graphics where it's like color in front of them and they like fade into them.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how, dude. All right. So they need their little morphin things, and then they morph into. They can just turn into the puppets whenever they want. Who is
Mercy the Buzzard?
Yeah, there we go. The South Park episode where corn turns into different type of corn.
Yes.
This is what we need. They just turn back into the puppets whenever they want. And yes, very Power Rangers style where they got their sweet little gimmicks there.
I got Power Ranger stuff all over the place, just ready to go, dude.
100% believe that. There, look at this.
I got one up there. Got a White Ranger sword right up there.
Power Rangers fucking
anyway, yeah. Anyway,
great show. What a great show.
That's 1990s all day. Let's go.
Move on to our other spotlight.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Chris Jericho is the Ring of Honor World Champion. You're pumped for this.
Oh, I love it. The GOAT. Imagine thinking that Chris Jericho ain't the fucking GOAT, right?
I don't think that because it's Bryan Danielson.
I know. I literally said it because you always tweet that.
I know.
But I mean, I'll intro this one. So Chris Jericho is now an 8-time world champion. He's held, I mean, if I can even get all these right, because it's been such a long list. I mean, he's been the WWE champion. He's been the world heavyweight champion. He's been the undisputed champion. He's been the Ring of Honor world champion now, the AEW world champion. He was technically the WCW champion, even though it was like when the WWE had it. The dude's got a long list. I mean, that's not even talking about all the other titles. Like now he's got he's been the IWGP IC champion before. Maybe he needs that world championship at some point too. I'd be totally down for it. Obviously, look, I'm a big Chris Jericho mark. He's outside of Cody, who I'm a giant fan of for like personal reasons as well. Like Jericho's been my guy since like the mid 90s. Like he's my favorite wrestler ever. I think he's still wrestling at a really, really high level. And I thought his match with Claudio was really good last night. I mean, like he's been having good matches, good stories. And if Ring of Honor is looking for a TV deal, what better person to have that title on? For executives to look at that and be like, oh, I know who Chris Jericho is. Like he's the guy who's the face of this. Like, oh, okay. I didn't. And you have the proof too of like Jericho joined AEW when it started, got a lot of buzz for that company. Maybe you can do the same for Ring of Honor, getting a TV deal and stuff. I personally love it. Listen, I like Claudio. I would have had no issue with him retaining there. And I do feel like he did get done a little dirty, like really short run after beating Gresham for the title after his long reign and stuff. But I mean, this is just cool as hell to me. Like Chris Jericho won another world title. I never in my life thought I'd be able to say Chris Jericho is the Ring of Honor world champion. And now we're probably going to see him on these Ring of Honor shows, which is going to help people tune into those shows. And also, it advances the story of the Jericho Appreciation Society, where now Jericho is the Ring of Honor champion, Daniel Garcia is the Pure champion. So, like now the entertainers are getting the wrestling titles and stuff. I like this all the way around. So I'm all for Chris Jericho as the Ring of Honor World Champion personally. What about you, Jeremy? I'm sure a lot of people disagree, but like I'm all for it.
I was stunned that Jericho won. I didn't really think there was a chance he was going to win because, when you think of Ring of Honor, Chris Jericho at 51, however old he is at this point, just didn't strike me as being. I guess they did Christopher Daniels. He got his who was it? Jerry Lynn. Didn't Jerry Lynn? They put the ROH title on him to basically play off like the wrestler.
100%.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess they did do that, but you just don't think of Jericho, especially when he's doing the sports entertainment gimmick. You don't think of him as the Ring of Honor champion. That's why I didn't think of him as the Ring of Honor champion going into the match. But as I tweeted, and as a lot of people have said, TV deal looked nice when Chris Jericho is like, hey, look who our champion is. I mean, he helped AEW get this TV deal. There's no denying that. Tony Khan has said it a bunch of times. Chris Jericho has said it a bunch of times. Like having Chris Jericho, who is still a very well-known name, who still has a lot of crossover, especially with Fozzy and everything. It looks good to Warner Brothers of like Chris Jericho's our champion. He's going to be on our shows. we can build around him, build up from him, and then go from there. So I think that played a big part. And it is funny that a lot of people said, oh, well, Claudio, he had to take the title because they couldn't do a TV deal with Gresham. That's why they wanted Claudio as the champion. Now it's like, okay, well, Claudio's not a big enough name. Now we're just going straight to the top and going with Jericho. Jericho's got to be the big name here. Like, I get it. And if it leads to a TV deal, it's tough to say that this was the wrong call with everything. You're right in that, like, it advances multiple stories with the Jericho Appreciation Society and everything with Garcia. I don't have like a full-on issue with it because Ring of Honor, as we kind of grew up on, gone a long time ago, especially during like the pandemic era and everything like that. But even nowadays, this Ring of Honor it's just AEW, right? Like everybody who has a Ring of Honor title is all signed to AEW. They're all on AEW television. Until Ring of Honor does establish itself as a separate company and they need a TV deal to do that, or there's just got to be some type of split on TV that Tony Khan is not doing right now. It's just AEW, and it's just an AEW title masquerading, or it's an ROH title masquerading as an AEW title. That's all it is to me. So Chris Jericho, in my mind, has just won the 6th most important title in AEW, something like that. That's how I'm looking at it. And once they get a TV deal, if they get a TV deal, I'm sure Jericho will have a big part of that. Then, and it starts separating itself as a company. Hey, here's ROH. Hey, here's AEW. Then we can talk a little bit more about like, oh, is Jericho the right guy for this? Because then I don't think he would be. But for right now, he's an AEW champion in my mind.
Well, and it's kind of similar to what I talked about just a second ago with, Jericho. When Jericho won the WCW World Title, it was when the WWE had already purchased the company, and that was real strange. That was when like The Rock was winning the WCW title and stuff, and it was just like it doesn't make any sense. And this feels kind of similar in a way. Regardless of the TV deal stuff, I think, whenever ROH runs another pay-per-view, obviously it's going to do, I think, better than normal because people are going to be interested to see Jericho defend the title on like an ROH pay-per-view, especially if they have the right opponent. They could do like Jericho and Danielson again for that title or something, or, there's a lot of options. You could have Jericho wrestle like an indie guy he's never wrestled before in his career or something too. I mean, there's a lot of options with him having that title. Once again, Jericho, it's just cool. It just adds to the legacy of Chris Jericho, in my opinion. And I think it'll help make a case for Ring of Honor's future. I think Ring of Honor will have a brighter future because of Chris Jericho holding the title, because I think it opens up more doors to better TV deal possibilities or to more exposure for the brand or more pay-per-view buys or whatever it is. Once again, this is nothing against Claudio at all. Like I'm a big Claudio fan. I think he's fantastic. But if you had both of them right next to each other and you took just 100 random people, whether they're wrestling fans or not, way more people are going to know who Chris Jericho is than Claudio. And I think that's just really what it boiled down to when it came to this. On top of Jericho can still go in the ring. He's still a compelling character. You know what I mean? It isn't like it's just like some random guy who has name value. It's a guy who has name value who's also performing at a really high level still and has always been good in the ring and like kind of makes sense for the Ring of Honor style for what it is, in my opinion. So and he can constantly change his style too. It's like one day he's kind of like the Lionheart guy who's kind of more in-ring based. Another time he's, the Painmaker who's a little more like hardcore based somewhat. Or you have, the rock star Jericho, Le Champion, and all this. All these different kind of versions of Chris Jericho. The current kind of Lionheart Jericho he's reverted back to is, in my opinion, is perfect for something like this. So I like it.
You mentioned Danielson, and I think that is where this kind of ultimately goes as well. And maybe this is for the next ROH pay-per-view. Maybe this is when they do get a TV deal. But I think we're going to get Jericho Danielson for the ROH title in some capacity as well. And I do wonder what the original plan was had everything stayed the course. Because I don't think Danielson was not in the title picture. I do wonder if maybe Danielson was supposed to be ROH champion. I know it's Blackpool Combat Club, but I wonder if that was going to be their way to kind of just put the title on somebody who they saw as a bigger star than Claudio. And again, it's not a knock on Claudio.
Claudio was the replacement for Danielson in the match to begin with to win the title.
Right.
Because it was supposed to be Danielson and Gresham. That's right. That's a really good point. It probably was supposed to be Danielson the whole time.
So I do wonder what the plan kind of was fully originally there. And we'll never know. Not only the Danielson Gresham stuff, which I don't know if that was fully the plan. Those two, we just know that Claudio was supposed to debut in some capacity at the ROH pay-per-view. And I don't know what the original plan there was. I'm talking more of like Claudio. I'm talking more of Danielson. He was in the finals of the tournament, right. The AEW title tournament, and that wasn't going to be the case had everything kind of stayed the course with Punk and MJF and everything. So where was Danielson going to go? And I do think that maybe Danielson getting into the ROH title mix, even though Claudio was the champion, may have been the plan there. But we won't know. What we do know right now is Chris Jericho is the ROH champion, and we will go from there. My other spotlight, Stephen Jensen, Mia Yim is wrestling at Impact Victory Road, and she is in an X-Division. It's a Revolver match where the winner gets an X-Division title match. I'd have her win this match. I'd have her defeat. Let me pull up the competitors here. So it's a triple threat Revolver. Winner challenges for the X-Division title at Bout for Glory. Mia Yim, Kenny King, Black Taurus, Yuya Mura, Alex Zane, Trey Miguel, Laredo Kid, Frankie Kazarian. I don't think she's going to win. Have her win, do Speedball and Mia Yim at Bound for Glory. That's what I want to see. Where are you at on this shit?
I like the idea of that. I mean, and if any company is going to do something like that, it would be Impact. We talk about that all the time. That's something that I actually praise Impact for quite a bit. Is like I think they're I think Impact is the best platform, the biggest platform with the most eyes and the most talent that does consistent intergender wrestling. You see it on the indies a lot, obviously, but like you don't see it in WWE, AEW. So like it's totally reasonable and everything that Mia Yim would potentially win this match and get an X-Division title shot. We've seen Jordan Grace in the X-Division multiple times as well and stuff. Obviously, Tessa Blanchard was their world champion. I mean, like so I think that Mia definitely has as much of a chance as anyone in this one. If it was me personally, I'd probably go Alex Zane, just because he hasn't really, like, we've seen Trey with that title and we haven't seen Alex do a whole lot with that. And he's just a really, really unique performer. I'm a big fan of Alex Zane. I'm a big fan of everyone in this match. But I'll also say this. Mia Yim, I think, is doing the best work of her career right now. Like, she's really killing it. And I can't remember what the last pay-per-view was where she had a match. Oh, who was it against? It was really good. It was like maybe the best match on the whole. It might have been her and Jordan.
I think it was her and Jordan.
Was it her and Jordan? It was really good. I remember doing the review with I think I did it with Denise, and I was like, that might have been the best match, and it was, because that was on the same show as Josh Alexander versus Alex Shelley, and that match was incredible. But I remember even coming off that show being like, I really think that Jordan Grace and Mia Yim was like way up there, like it really was. So yeah, no, I'm with you though. Like if they want to do Mia Yim winning this thing, and then have Mia Yim and Speedball for the title at Bound for Glory, I have no problem with it whatsoever. Because once again, Mia Yim has totally proven herself. Like she can go in the ring with anyone, doesn't matter the gender. She's doing the best work of her career. So why not? Why not her? I mean, I think she has just as much of a reason to be in that mix as anyone else in the match.
I would have her win, one, because I think Speedball and Mia Yim is an awesome match. Two, because on top of that, I'm pretty sure her contract is up at Bound for Glory, or after Bound for Glory. I don't think she signed like a 6-month deal, and I'm pretty sure that's up around the time for Bound for Glory. So just like we say, just kind of do cool shit until then. Put Mia in this position to where she wins this match with all the men, and then challenges for the X Division title and has this dope match against Speedball. Because I don't know how long she's sticking around Impact. AEW is always looking to add talent. Mia Yim would be a good get for the women's division. Triple H, we know how much he invests in the women's division. Mia Yim as Mia Yim and not as Reckoning, or I think she was Reckoning as Retribution. Like that's a good get for that women's division. So I could see him
in AEW too, though. Too like that's a
that
could help her in there too. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I think if Mia Yim wanted to go to AEW, she could easily walk right in there. And I think people were a little bit stunned that she wasn't there in the first place. But I also think she wants to do her own thing. But regardless, I think when her Impact deal expires, she will have her options between those two, if that's what she chooses to do. So if that's the case, do a dope match between Mia Yim and Speedball Mike Bailey. Like, go out and do that, and show that you are invested in the women beyond the division, which they've done. Which, to Impact's credit, they've always done a good job of doing, but continue to do that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Once again, like you just said, Impact is doing a good job of that, in my opinion. Like, because like also on that same show, you have Max the Impaler, who is, I'm very bad about nowadays getting all these things right, but who I believe is non-binary. I always call Max they, and I think that's the correct. But Max is wrestling Jordan Grace, who's the Knockouts champion, and Masha Slamovich is like next in line for that title. All three of them could potentially be the world champion in Impact, in my opinion. Once again, gender doesn't matter in this company at all, in my opinion. Like, if you're talented, you wrestle other talented wrestlers, and you can win any of their titles. Like, I think Jordan Grace, I think like Masha Slamovich in particular, I think Masha Slamovich should eventually be the world champion of Impact. Like, she's so good. People that watch Impact don't even understand how good she is. Like, if you can see glimpses of it on Impact, and they pushed her, but like, if you watch her catalog of like the stuff she's done on the indies, especially if you want to look at like GCW, a lot of the stuff she does across the IWTV platforms, and most of it against men, like, she is so good. So like, they have right there Max, Jordan, Masha, and Mia right there. 4 people that aren't male, that it could all potentially, I think, be the world champion or the X-Division champion or whatever in Impact. Like, they could be any champion of any gender, in my opinion. So I think that's awesome for Impact. Once again, that's what makes it a true alternative, in my opinion, to a lot of these companies. Is like, does Impact get the same kind of buzz as an AEW or WWE? No. Does it get the same like big buzz like New Japan does for like Wrestle Kingdom and that kind of stuff? No, it doesn't. But like, if you want to see really talented wrestlers, some of the best collection of female talent in the world, and a company that's not going to put any limits on the gender at all, and just have talented wrestlers versus talented wrestlers for any championship, Impact, I think, is the best company that does stuff like that. So yeah, I would definitely want to give credit where they deserve it. Like, and I think Bound for Glory, they'll get a lot of buzz. That's a big show for them. Obviously that's in like a few weeks. So this is kind of like the prelude to that. And yeah, so to kind of put a bow on this, I think Mia Yim, once again, has just as much of a chance of winning as anyone else does to get a shot at the X-Division title. And I think her and Speedball would be great. I think we're all assuming that Speedball is going to retain over Delirious on the show. I don't think, but assuming Speedball retains, I could see Mia Yim versus Mike Bailey being awesome. But at the same time, I could see Alex Zane or Black Taurus or Trey Miguel or any of these guys against Mike Bailey being awesome. So like, but yeah, for this particular spotlight, I will say, like, congratulations to Mia Yim. I think she's doing the best work of her career. I can't stress it enough. And I think she's raising her value. And if she wants to leave Impact when her contract's up, she's going to get a good deal, either going back to WWE or going over to AEW. So she's in a very good position right now.
They ain't putting that fucking title on Delirious.
I'm going to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Indie Spotlight, Stephen Jensen. Malakai Black, he wrestled at Prestige Perseverance this past weekend against Kid Bandit, and he picked up the victory. And then after the match is when he cut his promos saying, like, I'll explain everything. I got to recalibrate, I believe is the word he continued to use. And he's like, it's not goodbye. It's not see you forever. It's goodbye for now. Then he put out a statement kind of explaining everything. Don't really want to get too much into that. Want to mainly focus on his match against Kid Bandit, which could be his last match for a little while. And, you know, he felt, because he did, after AEW All Out, he did cancel a Northeast wrestling appearance. And people were like, oh, okay, what's going on? He did keep this match with Kid Bandit, which was previously announced. And it was a big match. It was on IWTV for Prestige, which is one of the top promotions on the independent scene. I thought it was a good match. And if you've never seen Kid Bandit before, they held their own against Malakai. Malakai, it's a shame we are losing him for the in-ring stuff. I've never been a fan, but like the character House of Black stuff, not my cup of tea. In-ring, this guy's tremendous, and it's a shame we're going to be losing him for a while. Because watch this match with Kid Bandit if you have not.
Yeah, and for people who don't know about Kid Bandit, you know, they're Nightmare Factory trained. A lot of really good people that I respect a lot have said really great things about Bandit and like kind of their attitude and just how hard they work and the progress they've made. Very, very over, by the way. Everywhere I've seen Kid Bandit wrestle on the indie scene, they get very, very over. Malakai, yeah, same. I mean, without getting too into all of it, I know I got to wrap up soon to go to my shoot job, but like, I just hope he does whatever's best for him. You know what I mean? Like that's at the end of the day, that's really my main message when it comes to Malakai is whether it's, you know, needing to leave AEW or take a break or whether he's got personal stuff going on or physical or a mixture of both, whatever it is, like, it's not really any of our business. And I just hope he gets whatever help he needs or like whatever time off he needs or, you know, just whatever's best for him. Like, I don't like people like sticking to the grind and like making their problems worse just because they're afraid to like take some time off and, you know, get the help they need or the rest they need or whatever. So like, yeah, I mean, my thoughts are with Malakai. He seems like a great dude. I can't speak too much on this yet, but he actually recorded a cameo for somebody I know
Nice.
Before the news came out that he was leaving. And I can't talk a lot about it yet. But he said a lot of stuff that is kind of out there now. It's not really saying stuff that's like, but he seemed like a really good guy. He really did. And he seemed very genuinely interested in this person he was recording this for. And he was speaking from the heart and talking a lot about just like, you know, kind of his future being uncertain, but like he seemed like such a genuinely nice human being in this message. And I was like, you know what? Like there's a lot more to this guy than what meets the eye, I think. I think there's a lot going on up here. Like you can tell by his like wrestling gimmick that he's very creative, but I think there's a lot going on in his mind that like we just, you know, so I once again, at the end of the day, I just hope he does what's best for him. Like I'm not one of these people that's like, screw Malakai Black. He's leaving AEW. He's got 5 years left on his deal. I don't care. Like I want him to do what's best for him. AEW is going to be fine. WWE is going to be fine. All these companies are going to be fine. We want Malakai to be fine too and go somewhere he's going to be happy or perform somewhere or work somewhere he's going to be happy. So it's at the end of the day, that's all I want for the guy. Like I want him to be healthy and happy. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, on a personal level, hope everything is good with Malakai Black. Take as much time as you need to get away from everything. Come back whenever, wherever you feel is best for you. On a wrestling level, go check out the match with Kid Bandit. I credit Malakai that he kept this booking, that he still wanted to do the match. I think it speaks to the respect he has for Kid Bandit as well. And I thought it was a good match too. So go check it out. Show Prestige Wrestling some love. IWTV, use the code Fight Talk.
Use code Fight Talk. Yeah.
I gotcha. Jensen, your indie spotlight. Clint Margera defeating Alex Colon for the TNT Extreme Division Championship.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up today, mainly just to get some names out there. So like Clint Margera, really big over in the UK in the deathmatch scene. Alex Colon, one of the most recognizable deathmatch wrestlers in the United States and therefore across the world. He goes all over the place and just does just some of the craziest deathmatch stuff I've ever seen in my life. Clint Margera defeated Colon to win the TNT Extreme Division Championship over the weekend. And I wanted to mainly bring this up because, you know, TNT and GCW put on 3 really good shows this past weekend. They had the TNT versus GCW. They had a GCW standalone and they had a TNT standalone. And also Lee McCader. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. The guy that runs Progress. He also runs TNT. And he actually hit me up during the weekend and was like, man, thanks for throwing some tweets out there for TNT. Cause like, we're really trying to, you know, they're kind of being like the GCW of the UK over there. And they're doing really good things and they have a lot of talent. I saw a lot of talent on the show that I'd never really seen before, maybe just heard about a little bit And I was like, damn, there's still a lot of people out there that like, once they come over to the States, they're going to blow up huge that people just don't even realize are out there yet. So I want to give a shout out to TNT Extreme Wrestling. I mean, like they in all honesty, I came out of this weekend feeling like the UK has its own GCW and we have like our US GCW. And when those two companies mix, it's going to be great. And like Joe Lando, for instance, who we're supposed to be getting on the show soon, he's a fixture over there in TNT and stuff. And, he's been doing crossover with GCW. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. A lot of those UK talents coming into the States and stuff, and more GCW wrestlers going to the UK. GCW wrestlers are about to be going to Japan. They're doing a Japan show soon. So I really wanted just to spotlight the idea that like just how international some of this stuff has really gotten, and like the joint promotional stuff that's been going on has been really cool too. So shout out to TNT and GCW for some really good shows, and shout out to Clint Margera, because also they're setting up over the weekend after Margera had won the TNT Extreme title. There was like a 6-man match over the weekend. And if I remember correctly, John Wayne Murdoch pinned Margera during that match. So I'm assuming we'll probably get a big John Wayne Murdoch versus Clint Margera death match at some point soon, either in the States or in the UK. So that's something to keep your eye out too if you're a deathmatch fan.
TNT and GCW did a lot of good stuff this past weekend, doing some like co-promotion. They held the one show together, then they had the GCW versus TNT show as well, and then the GCW show in Liverpool featured some TNT talent. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a big bundle on Fight TV. All the events were on Fight. So yeah, go check out those stuff. And like you said, Joe Lando, we're hopefully getting him on the show pretty soon. I know you talked to him a few weeks ago at GCW when he was in the US. So I'm looking forward to that interview when we talk to him. He seems awesome.
Yeah, he's the man. For people who haven't seen him, he's the future. Like there's a lot of guys like that in the UK though, which is wild. There's probably like 5 or so people I saw over the weekend that I knew like nothing about, that I'm like, oh, these people are going to be massive if they ever get to the States, like massive. And young, like talents that are like teenage to like early 20s that are going to be, there's so much talent out there. It's exciting as a wrestling fan. I got to go clock in for the shoot job. Y'all can follow me on Twitter at FightTalk _FIGHT TALK_. Use code FightTalk and IndependentWrestling.tv. Listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. It's every Sunday on FightfulSelect.com. And make sure to hit the like button and subscribe right here on the Spotlight for the Fightful main YouTube channel. Enjoy the interview with me, Jeremy, and Righteous Reg. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And I will see y'all later on.
Thank you, Stephen Jensen. Jensen will be back next week. We'll have a brand new show next week. But before we get to next week, there we go. There's my Day After Dynamite look. Before we get to next week, we do have Righteous Reg in our Creator Spotlight. If you don't know Righteous Reg, he is What's Wrong With You, first off. He is the curator of the Black Wrestling's 500, which started as the 250 a few years ago. That landed him at PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, helping out with PWI 500 and just doing feature articles and interviews for them. I assume he's best known to this audience for Grapsody, which is every Saturday at noon with Will Washington and Phil Lindsay. And also he does AEW music. So we get into all of that with Reg. We talk about lists. I reveal my beef that I've had with Righteous Reg for a very long time, a long-standing beef that he had no idea about until I brought it up on this show. Reg, great guy. Everyone go support him. And we talked to Reg for about 45 minutes or so. So yes, we did talk about the CM Punk stuff as well. That came at the very end. So yeah. Great interview with Reg. Go support him. Go support Grapsody if you haven't. Hopefully you learn more about Reg that you maybe didn't know before this interview. So we're going to go head over to the Creator Spotlight with Righteous Reg of Grapsody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Spotlight here on Fightful.com. I'm still Jeremy Lambert. That is still Stephen Jensen. And below us, a man you know here from Fightful, Grapsody, every Saturday at noon Eastern with Will Washington, Phil Lindsay, and the great Righteous Reg, a media legend, the man who made CM Punk cry, PWI 500, Black Wrestling's 500. Righteous Reg is in the building. How you doing?
Oh my God, I'm very excited, Jeremy and Stephen. Thanks for having me on the show. This last week was insane. All kind of stuff was going on. I finally recovered from the hangover of all these lists being released and all these people being so upset about these things that they all year say they do not care about. I do not care. Do not care. As soon as it comes out, they care so much. It's amazing. I love it.
Isn't it funny how it seems like the people who say they care the least about stuff really just like talk about it more than everybody else?
Yes. I'm like, if you didn't care about it, you would say 0 words. That's the way to not make mention of it. But I mean, paragraphs and stories and all this. It seems like you care a lot.
I love when you put out the Black Wrestling's 500. Is first off, that's just incredible work, start to finish, doing that, and I want to get into that here in a second. But like you put it out, and then your next tweet is like trying to pay too much attention to the numbers. Just like appreciate that there are 500 great Black wrestlers out there, and like appreciate the work, learn something new about these guys. Like appreciate all of that. Don't get caught up and the numbers, and of course, all anybody wants to talk about is the numbers. They don't care about anything else.
No one listens to me. The wrestlers tell me, "No, shut up. What you're saying is not true. They're numbers." And I'm like, I'm saying they don't matter. And they're like, "No, shut up." I'm like, okay, whatever you say, have at it. But yeah, people obsess over the numbers, and I'm just like, try to put one person putting together a list of 500. Like, really, like, how much of a ranking could it really be? Just one opinion is what I really get to. So like, if you want to, this year just got to, if you want to celebrate your number, that's awesome. But in reality, I mean, it's just like a great list to celebrate an immense amount of talent over like, I was number 3, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you want to, great, but you probably shouldn't is what I'm really saying.
Well, also like whether it's the Black Wrestlers 500 or it's the PWI 500, once you get to a certain number, let's be honest, like it's just cool you're on the list at that point, right? Like, I mean, there's such a little difference between so many of those numbers to me that it's like, really, it's just like, we're thinking of you. We wanted you on the list. Like, and this is just kind of a general idea of kind of where you rank amongst like everybody. But like, and then if you're not on the list, like, it's not at the end of the world either. Because
no, it's not.
Like,
either way.
Right. Like there's great wrestlers that I see not on either list sometimes. And it's like, but no big deal. They're still great wrestlers.
That does not mean that just because you're not on the list does not mean you're a great wrestler, does not mean you're this. And does it not mean those 500 people are better than you. That's not anything that I'm saying in the world. This is just the PWI is ranked. There is blah, 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 all this that goes into it. But my list is just like, here's a celebration. Number 1 is just as good as number 500 is to me. If you want to say it's not, then that's you and your own personal insecurities and things. But to me, number 1 is just as important as number 350 is, as number 220 is, as number 445 is. They're all like relative to what's great about the list. The PWI one, me putting out the BW 500 before made the PWI fun because I got to be like, well, that's a celebration. This isn't a celebration. I mean, it's supposed to be a celebration also, but people are making it not a celebration. It's about tribalism. It's about all these other things. And it just felt a lot more fun of people just being like, I can't believe Jay White wasn't number 6. What are you doing to me? Like, everyone takes it so personally. And I'm like, I know that Jay White's your favorite wrestler, random dude, but it's not personal against you on the internet. I promise.
You want to know what's really just, I'm sorry, Jeremy, I don't mean to cut you off. This is the last thing before we got a lot of questions about this, but this just reminded me to bring this up. I think it's really ironic that of all people in the world, y'all will get this, where I'm going with this. MJF, of all people, is the one who's like praising the list.
Right.
Like the one guy who you think would be like totally like
Okada.
Screw everybody who's ahead of me. I'm number 1, blah, blah. He's like, no, like this is a pretty good list. You know
he said
I mean?
they did a pretty good job. I like what they did. Yeah. Like, no, totally just praise from the jump. He released a tweet praising it. Like, it's been like, no, you guys, they worked really hard on the list. And we're like, Max of all people saying this, what the hell's going on, man? Something's going on here. Listen to MJF.
At the end of the day, like, we're ranking a subjective and predetermined sport, right? Like, it's not like MMA or any other sport where it's like, all right, there's tangible evidence. This guy has championships that they actually won. This guy has scoring records and everything. The winners are predetermined. Anybody can be booked like anybody else.
Anybody.
And what you enjoy in the ring or on the mic or whatever it might be is what you enjoy. It's all completely subjective. And that's why I don't get caught up in the numbers. Like, all right, cool. Roman's number 1 based on their criteria. Awesome.
The best
Can't
thing
really argue with it.
that we say is like, if it was based off who's the best every year, Bryan Danielson would be number one. This would be the most boring list ever. It'd be 20 years of Bryan Danielson won again, you guys. Big surprise. No one's surprised. So like, if there's some other factors that go into it, it gives people other people a chance, because this would just be the Bryan Danielson 500 if that was what it was. So
That's what it should be.
It is
That's
what it
the
is.
GOAT.
That's what it should be,
GOAT
honestly.
right
Every
there.
time I start, I'm like, hey, Bryan Danielson number one. Even on like this year, there was no Roman was like, it's been in the running, it's been in the workings. Like, how are you going to deny that reign? The PWI 500 list is about what he did. It's hard to be like, oh no, Roman didn't do it. But I still went in being like, hey, Bryan Danielson was really out there having a great time, you guys. Don't forget.
Well, the main controversy that I'd noticed was the Jon Moxley ranking. It was the big, not in the top 10 ranking. But then PWI came out and like pretty quick said something along the lines of like, based on our criteria, which is our criteria, like he didn't have as many matches because of because of when the rankings actually are based off of. And I thought that was a reasonable explanation. Like, personally, do I think he was one of the top 10 wrestlers in the world? Yes. But I also think that like Cody probably could have ranked higher as well if he, was wrestling more often. MJF it falls subject to that too. Like, he just doesn't wrestle as often. So it's harder to rank him higher than some people that, are on that level, but, working all the time. But I guess, did you want to speak at all on the Moxley ranking specifically? Because that's the one that I really felt like was the most controversial to people on social media.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is there's always going to be at least one wrestler that is in this position. There's always going to be one wrestler that we should have ranked higher. There's always going to be one wrestler that just falls under this, like, damn, maybe we should have probably focused a little bit harder on it. Moxley was the number one wrestler. He's been on the cover of PWI. Like, it's not like it's lost him. It's not like he is the perfect example of why these rankings are really like whatever. Moxley was the number one wrestler in the whole world for the whole year. If you really get down to what he did in different promotions and different big matches, like, he's the guy. Like, it's hard to deny he was the number one wrestler. He didn't rank number one, but that doesn't mean he was number one. Oh, he wasn't number one in PWI, so he didn't have amazing matches in main events, and he wasn't in New Japan, and he didn't bleed all over the country because the list said he didn't. Like, no, it's still if you think Moxley's number one, then he is. That this list doesn't change that. That's all that it really comes down to.
That's a great answer.
I want to talk about the Black Wrestling's 500.
Yeah.
And it was, you can correct me on my information here. I believe it started in 2019. Started at 250 and then expanded to 500. How did this idea come about? Is basically my question. Is like, what made you think like, all right, I'm going to do this list. I'm going to sit down, put all this into it, and just start this list?
It all was from the PWI 500 in 2019. I think Seth Rollins was on the cover. I hadn't looked at a 500 in a couple years. When we were younger, like, it was a big deal. We used to go to the store, buy PW. We used to be like a thing. And then for a while, I don't want to say it fell off, but it just kind of like,
magazines fell off.
Yeah, that's all it was. There wasn't a print media or whatever. Nothing really happened. And then it kind of started coming back, and people started kind of craving like a print and different aesthetics of things. And there's some art stuff like that. So PWI was coming back into prominence. And so when that list came out, it was a popular thing. But I had already been being into the Black Wrestlers thing. I had the Black Wrestlers podcast, and I was just, in that. My space was like trying to get Black wrestlers into the spotlight or whatever. So when that list came out, immediately I was like, I wonder how many Black wrestlers are in it. That's the first thing in my brain is PWI 500's out. I haven't looked at it in a long time. Let's see how many Black wrestlers are on here. It's 500 people. There has to be some. I think there was like 36 or maybe 36 maximum. And so I was like, that's kind of weird. And so I tweeted like, hey, you guys, is it kind of weird that there's only 36 wrestlers out of 500? Like, that's a lot of wrestlers. You guys can only find 36 of them. And everybody's like, yeah, that is weird. You're right, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of became a little thing. And then somebody was just like, you should make your own list. And I was like, that sounds insane. I don't want to. And then like after 5 minutes, I was like, well, I do. I mean, I'm like off the top of my head, I probably know 100 Black wrestlers, just like off, just being in the scene and knowing everything that I knew. I probably know 100. Maybe I could do a list of 100, and it just kind of kept snowballing. And then I landed at, okay, I think I could get 250 black wrestlers, half the list. I know I could fill up half the list. And so then that just started me. Like, I built that 100. Like, I was like, everybody that I know from TV and from the independents, I can get to 100. And then I just started scouring the internet, Facebook, Twitter, Cage Match, anywhere I could find some match listings, try to find these black wrestlers. And it legit only took probably 2 days, and I got to 250 after reading about the PWI 500. And then that's how the BW 500 started, just off of only finding 30 wrestlers in the PWI 500. So I thought I could do my own. So I made half.
When does PWI contact you to, because you said it in I believe it was like a tweet, like you used it to basically change and influence the PWI 500, and now you're part of like the group that picks the 500. So when did they reach out to you and be like, hey, we like what you've done here, let's talk?
Yeah, they were making a change in the. Well, no, what happened was I got linked with the editor-in-chief at the moment. I got linked with him just to be like, hey, somebody was like, hey, Regiment made this list, blah, blah, blah. This is 250 people that potentially could have been on the list. I got linked up with Harry, and Harry was like, oh, you're right, but I mean, we can't change the list. It's out, blah, blah, blah. Maybe next year something will happen. Nothing happened for a while. They switch over to Kevin. Kevin becomes the editor-in-chief. Then he sends me a DM, and he's just like, hey, you're right. There should be more representation. There should be this. Everything that you're saying is correct. For the PWI 2020, we want you to come on and do like a little excerpt on the thing to be like representation. I made this list to kind of just say my name and what I did off of the last year's list. And then I did well with that, and I helped a little bit with what went on with the list. And then they were just like, well, why don't you just start? Kevin just wanted me to start writing articles. So I just started writing articles for them. And then the next year after that is when I really was like, from start, like, who's going to be on this list, what placement, what place it has to do with that. So both the things came with each other. The PWI came out, then it wasn't good enough, I thought. So I made my own. And then off of that, they found me from making the list off of their list and ended up with them.
People listening to this should really take note as far as just taking things into your own hands. You know what I mean? Because it's undeniable proof when you give someone a list of 500 names, or even at the time 250 names that you've come up with, and it's like, tell me only 36. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You're like, there's no way it's only 36 when I can give you this list. I mean, it might not be all 250 or under 500, but it's going to be more than 36. You know what I mean? So then it gets them at least paying attention. Exactly. And then it snowballs to what it is now. I think that's incredible. And we both know from following the independent scene, like, black representation has gotten a lot bigger over the last few years, especially. It's been, I mean, the amount of talent out there is just wild.
I don't want to toot my own little horn, but I mean, I played a little. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but I helped a little bit with like what's going on, because like after I put out the response to the BW 250 was crazy. Like, people were like going, like, it was a lot, and so like there was people I talked to bookers and promoters that were like, I used your list to book talent.
That's
personally.
awesome.
Like, I've heard that from the list. And so it's like, it's crazy where it moved into, and just how much like that's all I really wanted to be. I never really wanted it to be like, well, we want to know who Righteous Reg is, who's this, blah, blah. No, it's always about me being the messenger. If you know who Don't Die Miles is, if you know who Christian Robinson is, if you know who Jocelyn Navarro is, if you know who those people are, that's way more important. That's why I say when people are complaining about numbers and shit, it's not if you're complaining about 1 through 100, do not talk to me. You know who those people are. Even 1 through 200. Oh, who's number 150? That's probably somebody you know, probably somebody on TV. They don't need it. Like, why wasn't Kofi Kingston number one? He's Kofi Kingston. You already know who it is. This list isn't about Kofi Kingston. It is about Kofi Kingston because he was the first ever number one. But what I'm saying is it's not about the people that are on TV. It's not about the people that you know. It's about number 350. It's really about 200 through 500, the people you don't know, the people on the come up, the people that need support, the people that need this. It's not about what the people that are on Dynamite are doing because you already know them, but people don't really understand. So I've thought about before, just like, what if I just leave everybody off that you know? What if I just left every single on TV person off? But then the whole thing will just be like, well, why didn't you include somebody on TV? Why didn't you include this? So it's like, it's been a balance.
I think you do it the right way, because if you just put out like, here's 500 names, then like that's great. That helps people recognize. But like, there is something to attaching the numbers that then it blows up because of that, because then people want to argue, right?
It's fine.
And then like you said, it's not about the numbers, but the numbers does help just create the engagement and everything. And that's what helps.
It's annoying sometimes, but the discourse is super fun. And when a wrestler, when I go to their Twitter bio and it's all number blah 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 and the BW 500, that's amazing, and I'll never not want to see that. So if I have to put numbers for somebody to be like, I was numbered blah blah blah, I want to see that, and I love it, and it's awesome. So that needs to continue.
As I'm sure you know, independent wrestlers refer to the day of the PWI 500 dropping, and I'm sure they're doing the same with your list as well now. That's the national my booking rate just went up day, because that's when you send the promoters that number and go, hey, number 19 right here. I'm gonna need a little bit more money the next time.
It's so funny because that's like a thing too. It's like some vets will be like, oh, your number doesn't matter. Your number doesn't matter. I remember last year, Ethan Page was doing this vlog and Hornswoggle was on there, and they were talking about somebody's number, and Hornswoggle was like, well, your number doesn't get you bookings, or your number doesn't do this, or your number doesn't. And Ethan Page stopped and he's like, actually, now it kind of does. Like, things have changed a lot. Like, you being high, like Kenny Omega in his intro says, I was twice the number one wrestler, one of the best wrestlers in the history of the world. That's one of his accolades. So it's a lot more, it holds a lot more weight than these people try to lead on.
Has anybody messaged you and been like, could you not like make me a little bit higher? You know, can you not help me out a little bit? Yeah.
A lot of people the whole year. That's mostly what my life is about. Is like, I'm like, you know, as in our position, when a wrestler DMs you, it's either two things. You're like, damn, this is cool. Like I'm interacting with the wrestler, or it's like, damn, what did I do? Like, why is this wrestler DMing me right now? I can't like. And for the most part, it's been like, what the fuck? What my number, dude? Why didn't you blah blah? And I'm like, I just want to say it's never personal, ever. It's never, ever personal. Like, you're an amazing wrestler. That's what I was like. It's funny because it's like, you're amazing. Why are you yelling at me about this dumb number? You're one of the best fucking wrestlers there are. But wrestlers, they're sensitive, man.
See, they're yelling at you because the difference between 90 and 85 is you know, a couple $100 in a promotion.
Exactly. Now I know the importance of that.
What's that?
I said, now I know the importance of that.
Yeah, like, hey, Jonathan Gresham. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but him citing his number, like, he was 10 this year. He's walking in. He's like, top 10. Pay up. Give me that belt back.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I love it, and it's my favorite thing that's been created. My favorite thing that exists in the world is that he uses his number, and I made him number 5 on the BW 500 so I can help. So you can, like, I was 10 on this, I was number 5 on this. Like, what are you guys gonna do? Raise my rate. Let's get this money.
Yeah, rate's going up. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Tell me about Grapsody and how that came about. I know you guys just celebrated your 1-year anniversary of basically the idea where you and Will were on a show, and it was, hey, let's do something more together. And then it spun off into this.
Yeah, it kind of was just like existing in that space, being the list creator guy and kind of building my name to try to put these wrestlers out here. And then I just kind of find people who I like Philip Lindsay was just doing articles. And I was just like, it was really Philip Lindsay and Andrew Thompson, where they were both doing articles. And I was like, damn, I just like these guys. They're black guys too. They're kind of, I relate to them. So it was cool to see that type of energy, those type of people in the space. And I kind of built a relationship with them for a while. And it was always like, we have to do something together. Eventually I had a podcast, but I stopped doing it because I wanted more. I wanted to co-host. I wanted what eventually Grapsody was. So it was like, eventually we have to do something. And then Will Washington just kind of, he's been in the space for so long, 17 years, but he just kind of came out of nowhere, it seems, because it feels like I would have been trying to be in something with this guy forever. So Will Washington pops up and he starts having his own podcast, and he's just kind of giving up an energy where he wants something new. And so we did the podcast, the infamous line, we should all podcast together, pretty much led to it. It all came down to just like, I saw people that I related to and was happy to see in this space. And it felt like the same for them. I wanted to do it with integrity. I had seen the wrestling news cycle was kind of bad. Like right before Fightful started to get kicked off, the wrestling space, I just didn't like how everything was moving. I didn't like how the people reporting it. I didn't like anything involved in it. And I was just like, we need to get into the space, create our own lanes, and be able to like push our stories and push our brand of this. And so that's what happened pretty much. We got to Grapsody. Will Washington started cooking on the, I don't want to say insider because that sounds crazy, but he started to build a name in the space that I wanted to infiltrate. And Philip Lindsay's always with the articles, Bleacher Report, doing all these things. And then I'm over here doing lists and making music and trying to do all the things that I can to create my little space. So it's all just mutual wanting something better for the space.
Yeah, I love what it's become. I mean, it was like big so quickly too. It's like I feel like it really took off right away, which was really cool to see, and especially with like the time slot of y'all being Saturday afternoons. That's really cool too, because that's like reminds me of when I was a kid. Like I'd wake up and watch like WCW Worldwide or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like you have like your Saturday afternoon wrestling space, and so I think it's really cool. Congratulations on all the success with that, man. I mean, just a year in, y'all are killing it. Been killing it since day one. And I know you're like me when it came to like, because me and you, I remember it's been a while already, but when me and you did that GCW review a while back.
Right. Was that like, January, right? Was it on the World of GCW?
Yeah. I think that was the one. And I remember talking to you a little bit. We almost went down a rabbit hole because I was like, oh man, this guy's just like me. Like we were both on like Kazaa and LimeWire, like watching Amazing Red clips and all this stuff. I was like, I remember those days. So like, it's cool. It's cool to know you kind of came from like being such a big fan of wrestling and like the internet wrestling community, even like all the way back then and stuff, to like now really carving a name out for yourself in the space, man. It's really cool to see.
Thank you so much. That's really what it is. I was thinking about that actually a few days ago because I came up during message boards. Like I used to love to browse the CZW fans message board, and one person, Rob Naylor, used to frequent on those message boards, and he was probably the first person that inspired me to wanna, because it was like, when you're growing up, it's like, okay, I want to be a pro wrestler. It feels like the only way you could get in is like, I have to be a pro wrestler, I have to be a referee, I have to be blah blah blah, all these things. And when the dream kind of like was done of me being a wrestler, it was like, well, how else can I get into this space, not just being a commentator or blah blah blah? Like, how do I get some other kind of space? And then when I saw Rob Naylor just like was a wrestling fan, just really loved pro wrestling, and he eventually got to FCW and the WWE just off of that inspired me to like, well, if I just kind of ramp up what I do, ramp up the things that I like to do and how I could make my name in the space, then I could do it too. And so that's kind of like, that was the beginning of the BW 500. It was like, I always wanted to have something that separated me from everybody else, because everybody can write, everybody does news. Now everybody's a damn source with Twitter. Like you don't like, the shit is wide open. So what is different from me? Like what separates me from every single other person that's out here making the name. Well, I do this list, so that like really, like when I say the BW 500, like I'm miles away from everybody because that's one thing that's just mine. Like everybody else is doing news, scoops, doing whatever, editorials, all the stuff. But if you have one thing that's yours that could separate you away from that, then you're going to get to the top. That's what I like to tell people. I get a lot of people in my DMs like, well, how did you get to the position? What do you, it's like, you have to do something different. If you don't do anything different, you're just going to get stuck in the pack. We all have podcasts. Jeremy, Stephen, we do 20 podcasts a week. Like, what's going to be different from your podcast than Jeremy's other 5 podcasts and my other 5? You know what I mean? Like, it has to be something.
You got to do something different, or you got to just do something at a very high level and continue to do it. Because
yes, consistency is super key.
Yeah, consistency is the biggest thing. And like you mentioned, like, yeah, anybody can write news, everybody can write news. And it's like, okay, but Andrew Thompson, I will always credit him. Like, there's a difference between the way Andrew Thompson does news and grinds on news and covers the news compared to literally everyone else out
exactly
there. And that is also a big thing. Yeah, having consistency with stuff, because you're right, everyone can have a podcast, but are you doing it weekly? Are you doing it daily? What are you doing with the podcast to separate yourself?
Is it just a raw review podcast? Is it just this? Like, there's so many different factors. Everyone really does that. That was important too. I was like, Phil and I talk about that. Like, if we have to be a Raw and SmackDown and NXT review podcast, we're out. Our podcast has to be different because everyone's doing that. What are we going to really do to be different? We have to bring some kind of other thing to it.
Dude, that's what saved me, man. 100% was like, I took a hard turn into the indies a few years back. I was like, I was like, there's hardly anybody like on like a Fightful platform or like any big platform that's like going to like Southern Underground pro shows in Nashville. Right. Like, I was going to go and just start talking to wrestlers and see if they want the interviews. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that's really good advice. Do something different, just something different. And because if you're good at something, that's obviously there's value to that, but then you have to be better than all the other people that are also good at that.
That's exactly what
you got to be original, you know.
Like, you're good, but you also like, it's as a rapper, like that's the hardest thing that I experience, because it's like I'm not on the super upper echelon of great rappers, but like the space that I'm in, there's so many rappers in that space. It's like you got to be better than this 1,000 that are on this space to get to the next level, to try to be as good as those 1,000 that are at this space. So it's a lot of constant work, constantly just trying to. The good thing is about it is I've gotten to a space where everything is fun. Like, anytime I'm like working on wrestling, I'm having the best time. So it's a good space to exist in.
How did the AEW music and now AEW video game being featured in that with your music, how did all that come about?
Congratulations on that, by the way, man. That's incredible.
Yeah. Just Grapsody, pretty much. It's just like doing that podcast and talking to people and seeing how many people in AEW and around it kind of enjoy what we do. Us going to the media scrums and just like being ourselves. Like, the scrum talk and all that is so funny because people that have never been in there have thoughts and what they would have did and what they would do. But it's like, if you're in there, it's a different space. But I've never, if for one, was not Righteous Reg. I wasn't I wasn't doing anything. I went in there to be myself. I knew what questions I was going to ask. I knew how to create my own space again. Like, how do you separate yourself from all these other people? And so I think just us having integrity on our podcast and being really about the pro wrestling and having fun. When the Who We Are project was proposed at the end of last year, we just kind of felt like the people, I don't want to say the go-to people, but some people that, were immediately in their mind, because I had already existed in the music space. Will Washington also existed in the music space, done a lot of producing. And Will Washington has made a lot of connections, networked a lot of connections, and he kind of got us into that. So doing the Who We Are album, we did a lot of work for it. Will did a couple songs. I did a couple songs. I worked on a song for Jade Cargill. I worked on the song for my big homie Powerhouse Hobbs. And so I think that just kind of led to everything else. That led to me getting Ruckus hitting me up a few days before Double or Nothing to be like, hey, do you want to do another one? Yeah, I'm ready. Paige Van Sant needs a song for this weekend. Oh, really? That's crazy. Okay, I got you. And so then get that to him. That, unfortunately, give Paige Van Sant a damn match, you guys. What's going on here? I can never hear this song. I've only heard the song one time because she's out doing whatever she's doing.
Yeah, bare knuckle fighting.
I know. Could she have her song out there? Help my brother out. That's all I'm saying. And so I just think that led to, you build relationships, network. Ruckus hit me up one day and was like, hey, we got the video game coming. And I'm like, cool, that's great. Could you send me a copy? And he's all, hey, would you want? No, what happened was he said, what's your best song? And I was like, I don't know. That could be, if Ruckus is saying that, it could be for anything in the world. He's like, hey, what's your best song? I'm like, probably Brick Foam. That's like I wrote that song this year. It's just like everything about that song is a song. Here's a song. He's like, oh, cool. We're gonna it led to, hey, that song's gonna be in the video game. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? That's what I can't talk. I can't form together words to say yes. But yes, please. And so that's been, video games take a while. That's been in the running for a while. I didn't even know when they were going to release any information, if they were going to just release the soundtrack with the names or whatever. I didn't know anything. I didn't know this video was going to come out last Saturday to be like, hey, Righteous Reg's song is in there. So that was a big shock and a big deal. And I'm super excited. It still hasn't really hit me because I haven't played it yet, but it's something I never knew that could happen. Everything that's cool that's happened to me is something that I never knew that could happen. I never knew that I would be able to interview the WWE 2 times. There's been 4 black WWE champions, and to be able to interview 2 of them while they're WWE champions for a magazine. I got the cover story with Big E while he was the WWE champion. That's something I could have never in my life, even like when I was 13, like, hey, when you're this age, you're going to interview the WWE champion and it's going to be the cover story of this magazine and you're going to be a writer. All of that. I'd be like, what, dude, what are you saying? Why are you saying these words to me? You're being weird. So like every time that happens, it's even more shocking because I never even imagined it. It's like, it's so cool. I'm happy to be here.
Man, that's awesome. Well, when you're doing the music like for wrestler entrances, I'd imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd imagine when it's someone maybe like Hobbs, maybe you have kind of like an idea going into it of kind of where you want to go because like you followed his career, you know what he's about, you kind of have an idea, but then you get hit up and they're like, hey, Paige Van Zandt, she's got an MMA background, she's never wrestled a match before. What kind of direction do they give you as far as like what they want her music to even sound like, and how do you even put that together?
Yeah, they usually kind of just like send out, there's like a list of like, here's kind of the music that she's influenced by. Here's what I think the track should sound like. And here's some bullet points. Like luckily in the Paige Van Sant wasn't super out of the realm because I watch MMA and I'm pretty familiar with the things that she did. So it was just mostly like, well, what are the other things? Like, what is the person, not even her, what is anybody, what do they want the fans to know about them in this little moment of music and what's some important points? Like, oh, she's a bare knuckle boxer and does this and blah, blah, blah. So it's just kind of like figuring out which points you want to hit and then figuring out how you want to hit them.
Gotcha.
It's all fun. So it's like you getting paid to have fun. It's like, how do you make this fun? And that's where you land.
Are you a playable character in the game? Have you negotiated that?
Oh, dude, Fred Durst negotiated that back in the day, and that's still one of like, the most OP moves that anyone's ever made.
This is what I'm saying, Reg. I'm looking out for you, man. I'm trying. I'm gonna get you in the game.
I don't know why that one got me good. That's hilarious. I wish so much I was a playable character, man. That's so funny. We still like a question that people have. When's the release date? No idea. No one has any idea. I've been told 20 different release dates. I don't know. I cannot help you. I hope it's soon. We all hope it's soon. It's coming one day.
I think the leak is February of next year.
Okay.
Is what the big leaks are. This is not me reporting anything.
Yeah,
this is what the leakers are saying.
Okay.
Good. You know what? I've popped Will today. I've popped you today. Me and Phil are going back and forth with Jay-Z lyrics on Twitter. I'm having fun with the Grapsody guys because I do. You guys are the best. You guys are fantastic. I do have beef with you, though. I like to start beef on these shows.
Ooh.
Usually, I don't start it. I usually try to curate it between other people. Typically, I would ask you, like, could you beat up Will and Phil?
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, but I have beef with you because I've told this story off air. Andrew Thompson, our friend, we were close. We're still close, and I learned of you through Andrew, right? And I was like, Reg seems really cool. He seems like we get along well. He seems great. I was like, and he's always put me over, or he's always putting you over to me. This is back in the day. This is like 2019, 2020. So he was putting you over to me. I was like, I've seen Reg. I've seen his list and everything. Like, he seems cool. And I followed you, and it took you forever to follow me back. And I was so mad about this because I was like, I want the love and affection of Righteous Reg because you always seem so cool. And I would try to message you and like banter about with you. I was like, I won't Reg follow me. This would keep me up at night, Reg.
You were baiting him for the follow. You were baiting for the follow.
This is keeping me up at night.
I'm slow with the follow, man. There's some people, like, most of the time I go on a page, I'm like, how am I not following this person that I've been following for 3 years at this point? It just happens like that. It's always an accident. It's always love. I appreciate every single. No, I was gonna say I appreciate every single person on Twitter, but that's a fucking lie. There's a lot of weirdos and people that I do not appreciate on there. Jeez Louise, it's scary, man.
It is very scary. You don't want too many followers. I told Phil that a long time ago. It's like,
you told all of us that. I remember that, Jeremy, and I hold it in all. Every time my follower goes up, I think I'm like, damn, Jeremy told us we do not want this, and it rings true every single time. Like, it's just too much because sometimes I just want to get a dumb tweet off. I'm like, Madcast Pat Moss sucks. It's like there's not a wrestler in the world that I want to fail. Anytime that I'm like burying somebody, it's all in fun. I want everybody to get money. I don't want anybody to be injured. I don't want any of that. So let me get my damn jokes off sometimes, people. Jeez Louise. No, I'm just kidding. Madcap Moss is awful.
What'd you get in trouble for on Twitter like last week? You said something, and was it the chair thing? Yeah, people are really mad about that.
Well, what happened here?
No, because I said we were talking about the fight thing, and I was because everybody was like, "That's a felony. That's an assault." And I'm like, "Sure, yeah."
Oh, I did see this. Yeah. I saw it. You were comparing it to like what actual problems are. Yeah.
See, and because I have a bigger follower account, I have to like sit back and analyze and be like, maybe I should, I have to reel some things back.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I don't want to reel it back, Jeremy. I want to keep getting this shit off.
I know you want to keep like the troll tweets and the fun tweets going because that's the demographic you're appealing to who were on the come up with you. Like that's what got you the attention and stuff in the first place. But now you got the casuals. And the casuals are just going to blow everything up.
The casuals, man. It's the ones that have been following you for 3 weeks. And they're like, I didn't know you were like that. Like, dude, come on, man. I need the ones that my A1 since day one. But yeah, it's the casuals, as always, coming in and ruin pro wrestling all the time, trying to be the focus. Casuals, just coming and getting their little thing, even though we're here hardcore every single day of our lives, busting our ass.
Y'all ain't watching stuff on IWTV and TV every week like Reg and Jensen? Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Damn casuals. I hate that. Even WWE, I'm like, you guys never reward me. You guys stay talking about casuals. I was here in 2013. I was here watching the Nexus and all this bullshit. Rico, Constantine. I was like, reward me for being here. Why are you always trying to reward the casuals?
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah, man. They need to do something. I've said this forever. WWE Shop, it appalls me they don't have a reward system.
Dude.
All the money over the years that I had spent on that site where I'm like, I'm not getting any sort of perk for like one free t-shirt every, $300 I spent on this site. Like, come on.
Or dude, I had the network from day one until they went to Peacock, and I didn't get a reward for paying every month. I didn't get nothing. They didn't get a free nothing. They don't care. But if you were a new subscriber, here's all the things. Here's all the perks. Have fun.
only time they did anything for me was when I canceled the subscription to the network. I got mad at something, I canceled it, and then they sent me an email immediately that was like, don't you want to stay for 1 free month at least? And I was like, yeah. So I clicked it, yeah.
They're working like damn cell phone companies. It's terrible out here. Jeez Louise.
Reg, last one. I'll get you out of here. What's the coolest thing in your room?
I don't know. I have like the check. The coolest thing that's happened this year is I got a check that says All Elite Wrestling, and like one of my life goals is like to have a check. I have a check. I'm shilling all the way, baby. I have a check from a wrestling company with the name, all of that. That's cool, man. Like little kid me would be like, wow, man, you did it. I mean, even though like it's not a forever check, I don't get checks all the time. And that's what I tell people when they're like, you guys are AEW shows. If I would show every single check. Every time I got a check of them, I would open it on Grapsody and show it to the camera if that's how it was. These people don't get it. Yeah, probably that. Definitely. Just because like I worked very hard to get that. That's what people think, like this journey like just started. No, this is 30 years of being a wrestling fan turned into these things that you guys see. I worked hard for all this shit. Black Wrestling's 500 came from my brain knowing and finding, and now it's like when it started, it was hard to find 250 people. Now there's at minimum 1,000 black wrestlers around the world that are filtered, and 1,000 of them have passed through my brain. So I wouldn't wish it on anybody else.
People do not see the actual grind of years and years because they just see you when you get somewhere. And then it's like, oh, exactly. Well, how'd he get here? Had to be as Carolina Panthers head coach, genius Matt Rule says, he became an overnight sensation after 7 years.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
It was a lot of which night? It's a lot of overnights, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was an overnight sensation, like 550 of them. I don't know, a lot of nights, dude. So
it's all about being prepared when the moment comes up. Like you have like the moments, like your moment's eventually going to come. That's like anyone listening here. Like, but if you're not prepared for that moment, it means nothing. Like you have to be putting the work in. You got to have something to show for when that moment comes, and then it's like, boom. Now all of a sudden it feels like, wait, where'd this person come from? It's like, well, you didn't see or listen to all the podcasts for all the years that no one else was paying attention to, and all the articles that nobody was reading, and just grinding and
all the tweet that no one's interacting with, that no one cared about. Now they care about every tweet.
They weren't with you shooting in the gym, Reg. They were not with you shooting in the gym.
Not with me shooting in the gym, but they in the arena now. So let's all celebrate and let's not hate each other, you guys. That's it. That's where we're gonna end up at.
There you go.
Actually, I do have 2 more comments. One, you should use the AEW check as a bit and just hold it up every time. Like, yep, paid show. Like, you actually have an AEW check. Like, you could do this bit. And real last question. Has CM Punk reached out for you, right? Reached out to you for like just advice? He's going through a tough time right now. You got to this man emotionally. As he reached out and just be like, Reg, I need some advice right now. Like, what can I do?
Well, Jeremy, what you know, as anybody that follows me on Twitter knows about me, my favorite tag team of all time, the greatest tag team of all time, the reason that All Elite Wrestling exists are the Young Bucks. So I don't think he would come to me for advice about what to.
You could mediate.
As soon as he calls, I'm gonna be like, "What did you do? I heard what you did to Matt Jackson, Punk. You're not getting my advice, you little silly boy."
I love it. I love the bias because I'm right there with you.
Young Bucks, man. He's the reason you're here, Phillip Brooks. There would be no this if it wasn't for them. How are you fighting them? That's it. So I don't know.
Reg, thank you. Let everybody know where they can find you at.
Of course, Jeremy said it a couple times. Grapsody every Saturday morning. It's 9 a.m. for me over here on the West Coast. It's noon for normal people in the world. At Righteous Reg on all of your social medias. Go on there to see the Black Wrestling's 500. Get the newest edition of the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500 2022 edition. Roman Reigns is on the cover. Yeah, whatever. Everybody's so excited. Cool. Great. He's going to have that belt for 700 more years. We're all excited. No, seriously, get the magazine. is super cool. The one should be on newsstands. I wish I had the newsstand date, but you'll be able to get it on newsstands very soon. But if you can get the digital edition right now, PWI online, go get it.
Thank you, Reg. We appreciate it. Everyone check out Grapsody right here, youtube.com/Fightful.
RighteousReg.bandcamp.com too. How could I forget? Come on, you guys.
RighteousReg.bandcamp.com.
Yeah.
Go to @RighteousReg on Twitter and support the tweets that are about his work and stuff. Do not yell at him when he wants to get his shit off.
If I want to talk about how shitty WWE house shows are, let me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just let him.
Someone needs to say it.
Yeah. Grapsody, noon Eastern, 9 on the West Coast, Saturdays here on youtube.com/Fightful. Reg, thank you again. We appreciate it. Guys, we'll be right back here on the spot. We are back. Thank you again to Righteous Reg. Appreciate him. Appreciate all the hard work he does with the BW 500, the PWI 500, everything he does on Grapsody. RighteousReg.bandcamp.com. Check out his music. Support the great man, the media man, the man who made CM Punk cry. Support Righteous Reg. Guys, that's going to do it for this episode of The Spotlight. Stephen Jensen and I will be back next week talking all the cool things happening in wrestling, or maybe the not cool things, the things that just interest us, good, bad, ugly, in AEW, WWE, other indies. And we'll have somebody in the Creator Spotlight. We're looking at Joe Lando, I believe, for next week. So check that out. Check out Jensen's past interview with Joe Lando. Check out his work. He's wrestled in the UK, wrestled on some recent GCW shows, some recent just independent shows in America. So we're hoping to talk to Joe Lando next week. If not, we'll have somebody else on, but it won't be Cassidy Haynes. He will be bumped forever and ever. Guys, thank you again for all the support here on Fightful.com, here on the Spotlight. Go to Fightful Select, subscribe. Sean Ross Sapp said that Saraya was in negotiations with AEW over the summer, which her contract ended with WWE in July. That puts a timeline on when the negotiations were. And she showed up last night. So maybe Sean Ross Sapp knows what he's talking about. Check out Day After Dynamite at 3 o'clock here on this channel, youtube.com/Fightful. Check out Fightful Overbooked, where we're always doing content over there. We have a new episode this upcoming week of Tag Talk with Kylie and Hailey. Let me get their names right. That is Sundays at 5 o'clock. We have Joel and Tim Call It in the Ring, or Tim and Joel Call It in the Ring. That is Sundays at noon o'clock. Episode of Strong Style, Joshi Dreamcast, New Japan Bread Club, FMC, if you like non-wrestling stuff with myself and SP3, Newsworthy, where we talk about news that maybe we don't talk about on this show, or news that maybe you didn't quite catch during the week because you were too busy talking about Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and White Rabbits and CM Punk and all the more important news, and not things like Kara Hogan's favorite rapper, stuff like that. That's what we talk about on that show. Guys, thank you again for all the support, for all the love, for all the affection. We'll be back next week. Bye, everyone.